I think you ought to know, about men's radio, the place where men and women really speak. Oh man, what a show! It's men's radio. This crazy show is on 3 times a week. Now Russ and Phil are there to help with all your cares. We laugh, we cry, we talk like grown-ups do. But if you're sad and low, it won't cost you no dough. Men's radio, that's the place for you. With Russ Kane and Phil Dave.
Yes, it's Friday. A very good morning, one and all. Now, RK.
Yeah.
You've some news I think we need to get straight off with.
Yes. No, you make it sound like I've just been made Prime Minister. No, I've just got back from the vet. So the reason I wasn't singing, because I'm not in a singing mood, baby. And I'm wearing a hat because my hair looks like I stuck my fingers into an electric light socket. So, yeah, Ebony's ill again. Looks like pancreatitis again. So I was at the vet for hours yesterday. Had to take her back today. She's there now. She's on a drip. She's dehydrated. The temperature's all wrong. She's not eating. Everything is like screwed up. So you can imagine I can withstand everything in this pandemic, but I cannot withstand my little doggy being ill. I know it sounds silly. If you haven't got a dog, you will just think this is nonsense. If you've got a dog or a cat or a pet,
Hang on, I object completely to anyone who says it sounds silly. It does not sound silly. To me, the ones who sound silly are the ones who don't care. That's what's
bless. So anyway, that's what my morning's been. So I've been at the vet so far for about 2 hours. Anyway, I've left her there. I may have to pick her up later and then take her to hospital where she'll be for the weekend, which I'm not looking forward to. I've just paid the national debt of Bolivia just as a little down payment, and there we are. So that's been my Thursday, Friday, and she last ate on Wednesday. So that is really, not what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Not what I wanted. Anywho, if you are tuned in on Deluxe Radio and also Radio Waves, which is another of their platforms, hello, I'm Russ Kane.
And Phil Dave, hello.
And we are Men's Radio Station. This is the Daily Show. It's Friday. And if you're thinking, I don't know what the hell this guy's talking about. What the hell is he talking about? What's he going on about? If you're a Deluxe Radio listener and you've only joined us this week, it's because Phil's got 2 dogs, Monty and Carlo. And they are Dachshunds. And I have a mini schnauzer called Ebony. And they are the center of our lives. Get over it. If you don't like it, I don't care. That's how it is. Thank you so much for everybody's lovely messages. Paul Claridge, get well soon. Ebony, sending loads of loves and hug positive thoughts. I'm going to get her a ladder and then she can come and work with you in East Croydon. Martin Allen, excuse me. So sorry to hear. I hope she's getting better and soon. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you. So I'm sorry if I was a little jagged at the beginning. But hey, there you go. We're all human. We've got to do what we've got to do.
I might suggest as well that if at any point you are jagged throughout the program, it's perfectly excusable and perfectly understandable. It is not very pleasant.
Be professional. Professional, matey. This is what it's all about.
We don't have to be, but at the same time, we are all about promoting emotions and feelings and saying how we really think. Within reason, obviously.
Well, within some reason. Yeah, some reason.
I would encourage not to say exactly what they think. You know who you are. Anyway, the point...
They do indeed.
Oh, I didn't see you. Yeah.
Oh, Ed Grossman, my dog's not well, so I've been in the vet for 2 days. That's basically Richard Vero, all the way from, no joking, Colditz. I'm not making that up. Richard, I was at school with Richard, and Richard lives and has lived for many years in Germany in Colditz, as in escape from Colditz.
Yeah,
and he's heavily involved in all the people there.
quite a clever trick, actually, because everyone was so busy escaping it that he's realized
nobody went.
it's quite a quiet neighborhood now.
It's not only quiet, but probably because there was no one there. The house prices were great.
I think that's
He's a very interesting fellow. He's a very interesting fellow, Richard Vero. Very interesting indeed. Anyway, you tell everybody what's coming on, because I'm trying to get this program now up on my Facebook page, because that's maybe how it works.
No problem. By the way, Kimmy does to cheer you all up. I'm going to buy Phil a lovely felt hat. Thank you very much. As long as
that's nice. That is nice.
I'll buy Russ a felt scarf, Ebony a felt cushion, and Chantel a pair of felt gloves. I like to make my presents felt.
Kimmy Lashmar.
Well done, Kimmy. We see what you did. That was very good, actually.
That was good. Yeah, I mean, that was all right. Well, thanks, Kimmy. That's that is something. Hey, I tell you what's weird. I watch a lot of YouTube at night on my TV, right?
Do you?
Because I watch tons. I watch lots of documentaries. I watch a lot of music documentaries and stuff like that. I really am. I haven't got the mind always every evening to, especially when Ebony was so unwell, she was on my lap last night and everything, to get involved with the program. Although there are some programs I absolutely love, which we'll be discussing with Chantal Ricards, the doyenne of all things TV, at about 1:30. But where was I? Oh yeah, I watched. I tell you, the show I blimmin' love. Celebrity Best Home Cook. Oh my God, I love that show.
And the problem with that, of course, is whenever you watch something like that, you end up feeling hungry afterwards. So.
Well, I wasn't after what they made, because they made a thing with lentils, so they can shove that. Shove that. I hate lentils. Worse than that. Phil, lentils hate me in every way you could possibly imagine.
I don't wish to
imagine.
We'll
leave it at that. We'll leave it at that, shall we?
I don't want to imagine the ways in which lentils hate you, but at the same time, I think
they hate
a lot.
Every part of me.
So your internet hates you as well, to be honest with you. Right, coming up.
Is the internet bad today?
It's a bit dodgy, but it's fine. Now, coming up on today's program, for anyone, by the way, who is listening on Deluxe, who doesn't know the way this program works, during the rest of the week, on a Monday and a Wednesday, the show is only an hour long. But on a Friday, we have a 3-hour bonanza for you, full of great guests with really fascinating stories. Now, I'm not talking about your average guests who you get on the likes of some programs where they start talking about how they fell in love again with their mother's cousin or something weird like that. We don't do any of that nonsense.
How did you know about that?
Yeah, I'd heard.
Who the hell told you about that? I asked you not to say anything.
Oh, sorry, old boy. You know, what can I say? It's just a mere slip of the tongue. Forget I said anything. Anyway, coming up on today's program, we're going to. Well, I have a habit of doing that. We're going to be joined by a musician and impressionist Esther Ray, and we're also, at the same time, going to be joined by musician Sarah Fisher. And the reason why we're speaking to both of them is because that they are talking about music that reminds us of, is it music that reminds us of loved ones, I think is the way they put it, or something like that.
I don't know. I have one thing to hope. I'll tell you what I'm hoping with Esther Ray. Tell you what I'm hoping. Hope she's brushed her hair for once.
Well,
it would insult a bird's nest. All I'm saying. All I'm saying here. Bird's nest would look at it and go, what the hell? Does the woman possess a hairbrush or does she not? Big stories as they break, only on Men's Radio Station.
I'm sure Esther looks forward to being insulted live on air.
She knows me too. She's so funny. Anyway, Philip, before we get on to our other guests, I got to tell you what was weird. So I watch YouTube and I watch a lot of documentaries, and especially a lot of music documentaries. There's fantastic stuff. There's a channel called The Professor of Rock. He's so interesting and stuff like that, right? And I watch a lot of drumming videos as well. What is weird on my TV is to see you and I. That is so strange, because Men's Radio has its own YouTube channel, right? And we come up, you and I, all the time. And when you see it on the big screen, it's like, what the heck? Quite nice.
And I have now been suitably corrected that apparently that they are going to be speaking about the theme is going to be music and songs that describes grief. Now, that's a really interesting subject and a very thought-provoking one at that, because there are many songs that I associate with many different emotions. Now, whether or not grief is one of them, but actually there are loads of different sort of ways that I feel when I listen to certain songs. And I actually quite like the impact music has on the emotions. So I'm very much looking forward to chatting about that with Esther and with Sarah, who, by the way, are both clearly keen as mustard, because they're both poised in the digital green room.
Has she brushed her hair?
Raring to go.
How's the fringe? Is the fringe brushed? I mean, what's going on?
I'm getting an official confirmation when you asked, has the hair been brushed?
Yeah.
Shake of the head.
Unbelievable.
No is the answer.
Unbelievable.
I put it to you, sir, at least, that she's prepared to show her hair. There you go. Yes, see? Wow. Look at that.
I look like a maniac. What do you want?
Now you can't criticize.
I love impressionists. Only this morning I did my Frank Spencer sings Our Friends Electric. You gotta be down in my car. I can do what I like. It's ridiculous. I had lunch with Michelle Dautrice and her sister Karen, and Larry and I took them out for lunch. They are the funniest girls.
Now, we're also going to be speaking, by the way, about a very serious subject.
Good evening.
I timed that really well, didn't I?
I don't care.
Who's
going to see the Queen on Christmas Day then? Right. Can we get back to it? Go on.
This is Men's Radio with Phil Dave and Frank Spencer.
Good evening. Yes.
So, Dr. Parvinder Shergill and Mark Williams are going to be joining us about quite a serious subject, actually, that I have to be honest, I don't really know that much about.
Is it broadcasting?
Oh, you are. I'd say you're on fire today, but seriously.
You know why? The more depressed I get, it's very interesting. I'm doing an article about it, but the more depressed I get, the better I am at my work. Please explain that to me, because I don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, they're going to be talking about a new film called Daddy Blues. Okay. Now, this is about fatherhood and perinatal mental health. Fascinating subject. Really looking forward to getting to learn about that later on. And we'll learn about it at the same time at midday here on Men's Radio. And then finally, at 1 o'clock, we'll be joined by the lovely Chantal Rickards, who will lighten the mood, as she always does, with a little bit of a sneak preview of what's on the box. I'm fairly sure that should say 1:30, not 1 o'clock, but even so, one way or another.
She'll rock up. She's in hair and makeup in her trailer at the moment.
She'll turn up.
Because she's very elegant.
Anyway.
Always elegant. Always elegant. Angela Lee, you're absolutely right. Ed Balls is doing great on Best Home Cook. I have to say, I was never keen on him as a politician, but he's a terrific cook. He made, they had to make... It's classic. They had to make special cakes. That was the thing that I saw. I know it was on earlier in the week. I saw it yesterday. So I had to make special cakes, right, Phil? And Ed Balls does a party cake for little kids. That's a pirate ship. It was fantastic. It was an entire pirate ship with sails made of chocolate and chocolate fingers with like the boards going around. It was beautiful. And then Boris's sister, Rachel Johnson.
Yes, Rachel Johnson.
Makes this sensational cake. So the sainted Claudia says, you probably want to put it in the fridge for a little bit. So she puts it in, and Boris's sister, Rachel, says, who's a great cook, says, I bet I drop it. So you're going like, and I'm like, my stomach's knotted. So she puts it in the fridge. It's a huge cake. It's got like 4 or 5 layers on it. Bloody great thing. And it's on a cake stand, and the cake stand has quite a long base. You with me? Right? So you got the flat plate.
Almost see where this is going.
She takes it out the fridge really, really carefully, about to present it to Mary Berry, which would be nerve-wracking in itself. Takes it out the fridge, gingerly brings it up to the table surface, and the base of the cake stand gets caught on the kitchen surface. The whole cake takes a perler and just demolished. I sat there going, with Ebony on my lap going, oh no. It's ridiculous the amount of investment you can get. I don't mean financial investment. I mean the investment you get. Anyway, there we are.
Oh,
Ken Elm, outstanding. Nothing like sad songs on a Friday. Oh, Ken Elm,
Yes. You talk of emotional investment, and I think that's a beautiful segue into our first guests. Because now it's time.
Blimey, you're not hanging about today, are you, boy? It's 11:15.
I know, right? It's almost like they're raring to go.
Blimey.
Now time for us to meet Esther Ray and Sarah Fisher, who are both superb musicians in their own right.
State of that fringe. See, Sarah Fisher brushed her hair, made an effort.
There you are.
Made an effort.
Made an effort.
Esther Ray turns up looking like a member of the Ramones.
I put my headphones on so you can see the rest of my hair.
Oh,
well,
right. Okay.
I just did away with my hair so it was easier all round because I couldn't.
It looks so much better.
The daily criticism.
So much better. It's lovely. And it looks, everybody thinks it was a brave. We're getting into, I'm sorry, girls, we're getting into a whole thing about Phil's hair. Because
it's great.
It's lovely, isn't it? He looks great.
What do you think, Sarah? It looks great, right?
I think it's great. I just want to know, do we need to put these headphones on, or can we do it through the...
No, please put your headphones on.
Do it through headphones. I'm so sorry. We're talking about messing up hair, so we might as well do it. But anyway.
Well, Esther's going to notice, right?
And we have a very good morning, by the way, from Andy Lucas.
Thank you, baked potato.
Who says, hello, gents. And also Paul Andrews does as well. Okay. Now, ladies. Sarah and Esther and Sarah, whichever way around you want. First and foremost, thank you very much indeed for joining us. And secondly, when I read that we were talking about this subject, I never actually realized before sort of the impact music has on my emotions until I actually sort of stopped and thought about it. And some of the songs that I listen to, I realize I do deliberately to change my mood. And it can be both ways, by the way, whether or not I actually deliberately listen to something to make me feel sad because I've probably got sort of pent up energy or something like that needs to be released somehow. That isn't it strange how emotionally invested we can get in music?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Definitely. Music can either lift your mood or make you cry, remind you of someone. There are particular songs that remind me of my mum, and What do you think?
Do you know, Esther, I never realised you spoke so nicely. I'm not sure I've ever heard you speak. We've been insulting each other on Facebook for about 5 years, but I've never heard you speak. She speaks beautifully.
We have met. We have met a couple of times.
We have?
At marches.
We met on the protest.
That's right.
That's what we did. Of course we did. We met on the protest. Yes, we
did. Esther, don't take it too personally. I virtually introduced myself pretty much every single show to him. It's fine.
We went on this protest. We went on this protest against that man. No, that'll be my son, who could only phone at the most inconvenient moments. We went on this protest, and the main thing, there was me and Larry and other people, right? And the wonderful Zoe Kemp, who's just
she's lovely.
We just love Zoe Kemp. She's just a ball of fire. And like other protesters, and everyone's going, "You had coffee? You had coffee. Where's the coffee? Have you had the coffee yet? I'm going to get a coffee. Do you want a coffee?" And everyone's going up and down the protest. "Do you want some coffee? Do you want a cake? You're right. Okay." And everyone was worried about the catering. This is the way that we protest. It's true.
That's funny.
It's true.
That's funny.
I remember being in the pub.
Well, it was a good protest. The only time I was so angry that I actually went on a protest in the street. How many years ago was that, Esther? About 3, 4?
Probably about 3 years ago, yeah.
3 years ago now, anyway, it's lovely to see you again, he said, digging himself out of a hole that he needed a JCB for. But tell us about your music, please.
Okay.
Sarah?
Well,
You can start. Go on, Sarah.
got
the high ground.
Well, we have a mutual friend, actually. Can you hear me okay? Is that okay?
Perfect.
Oh, marvelous. We have a mutual friend who actually introduced us, and basically I'm not a lyricist particularly. Esther is the lyricist in this little duo, and I basically write music, and I'm a performer as well, like Esther, but I've been performing for quite a long time, piano player. And we met through her, and basically that was it.
Yeah, we.
No, but actually, hold on. You are more jazzy, and I thought, oh god, no, this isn't. This is not for me. This
It'll
is
be
not
dark
for
glasses and drugs.
Exactly.
Yes, basically it.
It was actually, and I met her, and she was in the dark glasses and drugs.
Of course.
And and I thought, oh no. But
the
then
hairdo.
it was the hairdo.
It was.
The arts clubs we met.
Why do you think that music can affect our mood so deeply?
Oh God, that's a really good question, isn't it? Oh, God. Well, lyrics, obviously. Basically, when people read lyrics, it can affect what they're feeling at the time. The music, it depends on if it's a major or a minor key. Minor keys, are generally quite sad keys. So we're taught in school anyway. Majors make you happy. And I don't know. It's just...
Angela Lee's come up with a great idea. It's Stephen Marsh, I beg your pardon. Jazz, maybe we could have a new act. Ray, as in Esther Ray, Ray Gelato. That's genius. Stephen, that's a really great gag.
Ray used to go to Pizza on the Park. I think we met there first of all.
Ray is like one of my best. This is one of my best mates. That's his theme tune at the front end of the show.
I know. I heard that. It's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Well, I put it to you. Actually, it's our theme tune, but he sung it.
No, that's our theme tune, but he sang it. Yeah, that's.
Actually, it's true what you say, Sarah. About I know I'm a hell of a pedant, but actually, I'm just hell. Full stop.
Pedants revolt.
Well, quite. But Sarah, what you were saying about lyrics is so true, because actually sometimes I love songs that have stories behind them. So when you stop and really listen to the lyrics unfold, one of my favorite examples of that is a song by Richard Marx called Hazard.
Oh yeah, I love that song. I love that song.
A beautiful song where he sort of talks about moving to a strange town, meeting someone, falling in love with them. No one really sort of gets the relationship, doesn't like it. She then bizarrely, what a thing to put in a song, disappears in mysterious circumstances, and people in the town blame him. It's just an incredible song. But I didn't realize how incredible it was until I properly listened to the lyrics. And I find there are many songs like that. But what you say about lyrics sort of having an effect on emotions is absolutely the case. There's one song by Jackie Trent, the great Jackie Trent, I should say, who wrote a song called I'll Be There. Now, that's not to be confused with the Jacksons song I'll Be There. And I think Mariah Carey did a cover of that as well. But no. But there is a song called I'll Be There by Jackie Trent. If you haven't heard it, please listen to it. But I warn you, it's one hell of a tearjerker, because it was the song I first heard. I'm so sorry to say this, but it's a song I first heard at a funeral, and it was such a beautiful song. I thought, wow, I've never actually sort of heard lyrics so perfect. It just a couple of lines, because I won't be able to read much more if I'm honest, but it was, I'll be there beside you till the end of time. I'll be there, but though we may be apart. In your dreams when dawn is breaking, in your heart when you're awaking, I'll be there. It's just like, oh my God.
Oh God, it's from the Inland Revenue.
Yes.
It's their bloody theme tune. I'll be there. Doesn't matter where the hell you are, I'll be following you.
I can confirm it is not from the Inland Revenue. In fact,
well, you didn't make that clear, did you?
It's better not.
Jackie Trent could have been writing about the Inland Revenue. We simply don't know. Here's an interesting point from Ramsey Masalam. Ramsey says this: I recall Michael McIntyre on Desert Island Discs. Created by Roy Plumley on Desert Island Discs, saying when he heard the Logical song for the first time in his 20s, getting obsessed with the song, even though he wasn't a particular fan of Supertramp. Yep. Mm-hmm. When he mentioned this to his mum, she said it was a song she played a lot, but she was pregnant with him. Isn't that weird, huh?
That was a good song, that was.
So what songs affect you, Sarah Fisher?
Oh, Love Forever Burns, of course, this one that I wrote with Esther.
Now I see
hang on, that's a good one. I love a good melody. I love a good tune, and when we write together, chords and melody are very, very important to me, particularly. And I work with Esther on this, you know, because that is what affects me, a really good tune. And anything with a good tune affects me. I love Wild World, actually, by do you remember Cat Stevens, of course?
Cat Stevens, Yusuf Islam. Rather unfortunate that Yusuf Islam, of course, big hit was I'm Going to Get Me a Gun. I'm going to get me a gun. And all the people that put me down had better get ready to run.
Oh, there you go.
But Sarah, on that very note,
yes.
You said it's got to have a good melody. What makes a good melody? Isn't that subjective?
Oh, yes, of course it is. What makes a good melody? Gosh, if you can remember it, I suppose, if you can hum it. What do you think, Esther? I'm going to pass this over to my friend here.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you. For me, not every song has to move me. I just have to enjoy, the music. Sometimes the lyrics can be very much throwaway lyrics. In fact, when I used to, many years ago, when I was a youngster, I did a course at Wavendon, and it was a course that Cleo Lane and the late John Dankworth used to hold for singers to kind of practice their art and so forth. And one of her words of wisdom, which I actually took on board, was you can sing many songs, but you should always take the lyric away from the music and learn the lyric first, perhaps even as a poem. If that lyric doesn't really move you or mean anything to you in particular, then don't really sing that song, or you can use it as a fill-in song. But do you feel that, Sarah? I mean, with lyrics, you don't obviously have to do the big Shirley Bassey on every lyric, but
no, we do.
Sing.
No, we do. We have to do Shirl on everything. Doesn't matter what the hell it is.
Yes.
Well, she's fantastic.
Got to do all that. Here's an interesting thing. You just mentioned, sorry to jump in, but you just mentioned Cleo Lane and Johnny Dankworth, who were brilliant. Okay.
They were brilliant. Yeah.
And they were inseparable.
Mm.
Cleo Lane, the night Johnny Dankworth died, went on stage, did a full concert, didn't say anything until the very end of the show, and just finished it with one sentence, and everyone went, what the hell? It was extraordinary. That is a pro.
Wow.
That is a pro.
And that voice, oh my God.
Oh yeah, she was great. I mean, she's still alive, but she was I think she's in her late 80s.
I think so.
I think she could be in her early 90s by now, Cleo Lane. And her daughter sang for us at Variety once.
Jackie Dankworth, yeah.
Oh, Jackie Dankworth, that's right.
And Alec, bass player, he used to work occasionally with me when I used to gig with Brian Lemon many years ago. Again,
okay. What does singing mean to you? What does singing mean to you when you perform? What happens to you?
Shall I go? Go on, Esther.
You go.
Oh, God, you two. Jesus, Sarah, you go.
The most polite interview I have ever seen in my life. You're both sort of saying, after you. No, after you. I'm just go for it.
It's so English, isn't it? It's like the theatre. It's like the theatre when you get up to go to the loo, get a nice go. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Could I just? In New York, you don't get that up. Move your ass, and that's what you get in New York. Everybody knows where you are.
This is true. Here we go.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. Here we go. Right. Here we go. I love singing. I've always loved singing, and basically, it basically helps to get my emotions out, and I just really enjoy singing. I have a couple of choirs actually that I lead, and it is a very, very beautiful thing when we all come together and we sing together. It's very moving actually, all breathing. Yeah, we breathe, you're breathing at the same time. It's a very emotional thing, singing, either a happy emotion or a sad emotion. I just really love it, and it helps me.
Do you get lost in, I'm talking about emotional and mental health here, but are you thinking, I'm performing to an audience, or do you get lost in the emotion and the mental state of the songs trying to evoke?
Depends how I feel at the time, actually. If I'm feeling pretty emotional, I don't know, something's happened to me, I could get lost in a song very, very much. But otherwise, if I'm performing and there's an audience out there and it's a sad song, I mean, I can, I cry. I can cry very easily when I'm playing or singing a lyric that moves me. But if I'm actually performing, I can't cry.
I find music is built, and it's really, wow.
Oh my God.
I find something that
I'm crying now, actually. Crying.
I've got shares and Kleenex with this one.
I cry every time I see Esther. Oh, God.
I have found that since sort of working in radio, I sort of pay more attention to audio. And as a result of it, whereas before I would listen to a song in its entirety, I now find that when I listen to a song and I listen to it over and over again, I hear different layers. Does that make sense? So in other words, I'll sort of, so I'll either hear the voices, like the lead voice, or indeed the harmony, or some of the instrumental. Does that ever sort of happen to either of you?
Well, go on, sorry, Esther. No, I was just going to say, I love...
You apologise one more time, I swear to God.
I have to just say before Esther, I absolutely love harmony, and harmony is the one thing that actually really moves me a lot. Okay, Esther?
What about other hairsprays?
Well, I like that too, but a nice harmony is good.
Sue Cressman, the doyenne of Nailcoat Hall, says this, and I'd forgotten this. Sue Cressman, I sang for the royal wedding in the choir at Windsor. But look what happened after the wedding. Our lovely princess left us all to go and live in the States, where he will be staying for a very long time until she dumps him. Then he comes back looking all miserable. Angela Lee, talking about selling songs. You're really resonating with our listeners and viewers, so that's lovely. Thank you so much, both of you, for coming on. Karen Carpenter, good with the sad song.
I love her.
God, what a voice.
But she would interpret songs just perfectly. She had, me personally, one of the best voices. It was so
best voice
pure,
ever, I think. So
beautiful, and her phrasing.
Yeah.
It's just, don't you think, Sarah? It's just gorgeous.
Is it about selling us? So they say that people can sell a song, and oddly enough, and please don't mock for once, good coming from me, Barry Manilow, say what you like, can sell a song. Right, Neil Diamond in his heyday.
Love him.
Very few people like Neil Diamond could sell that song when and he's performing the song that he's sang 100, 500, 600 times maybe, and you're hearing it like for the first time. That's very rare, isn't it?
Well, I guess it must be the same as an actor going on stage or a musical. You know, you sign a 2-year or a year, whatever it is, XC contract, and you have to be on every night, and you have to give it the same, emotion, the same level of commitment to.
But there's a difference.
Sure, the audience enjoy.
But there's a difference. If you see a really great singer, let's say Karen Carpenter, for example, when she sings a song, and you see a singer who's competent, they're highly competent, but they just don't have whatever that. I am not going to say the X factor. I would rather rinse my mouth out with bleach, but I would that certain je ne sais quoi.
Yeah, well, you see,
suppose there's only one way to whiten your teeth. Though, of course, we don't suggest that you do that if you are looking to whiten your teeth.
Yeah.
I have to say, yes. No, but that is a good point. You don't have to be technically brilliant to move a person.
Well, Scott Walker, right?
You don't have to have a great voice.
Scott Walker, not technically brilliant, but boy, did he sell a song.
Yeah.
And also, might I just say at this stage, by the way, if you have just tuned in on, say, Deluxe Radio, you are listening to Men's Radio Station. It's the Daily Show with Russ Kane and Phil Dave, and we're talking to our guests, Esther Ray and Sarah Fisher, who are talking about the emotional impact of music. It's funnily enough, actually, we've spoken about music many times before on the show. It's not necessarily something that we've looked at, the emotional impact of music. And I was just thinking sort of as well about the when we were talking about voices just now and what it said, straight away, the person who comes to mind for me is someone like Matt Monro or Nat King Cole.
Very underrated, yeah.
To be able to open one's mouth and make that sound, it's just the most enviable thing on earth. It's extraordinary how you just sound like that.
It's Matt Monro, in my humble opinion. I can't sing a note, okay? So I'm coming from no position of strength. I'm wearing my punter's hat firmly on what passes as my lunatic hair today, and that's it. Matt Monro's daughter, Michelle Monro, and I've never met her, but we chat. I wrote some stuff because I thought he was the best British voice I'm not talking about opera, I'm talking about popular music. The best British voice we've ever produced. Just like hot chocolate over ice. It's just fabulous. And she keeps his flame alive, and quite rightly so. Interesting question from Ed Grossman, which is, what comes first? He says, I'm trying to find where it is, but paraphrasing, he's always wanted to ask this: what comes first, the lyrics or the tune?
Either, really. I with you, I love to get a few lyrics to start working on the tune, but people work in all different ways. Lots of people just work with the tune, and then the lyrics come. Then it could be a rhythm, it could be a drum beat, anything. It depends on the person. Sorry.
When you write a song, both of you, do you have a particular method to writing it? Is it a case of you sit down and you think, right, now's the time to write, or is it just spring to mind?
We have to get a coffee first.
Yeah.
Okay.
my old songwriting partner, I used to have a few glasses of wine, but Sarah is very good because she makes me cups of tea.
So we have to have catering has to start first.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, it's like me with this program.
Sorry, Phil, go on.
No, it's a bit like me with this program. Ross goes mad if I deal with the catering for this program.
There you go. So what was the question? I can't remember. What did you ask?
What comes first, the lyrics or the tune?
Well, that's it, isn't it?
I mean, I send you lyrics, don't I?
Yeah, you do. But you said for your other songwriter duo that you had, what did he come up with the melody first, or?
I would always come up with the lyrics and melody, and then he would just play guitar along to it, muddle through. But we sit in the same room and just kind of bounce ideas off each other, don't we?
Who, you and me? Yes.
Is it easier to write lyrics and then melody, or the other way around, or doesn't really make a difference?
Sometimes Esther will come to me and say, look, I've got a little tune and a few lyrics. What do you think? And from that tune, I'll sit at the piano and I'll think, that's quite a nice tune. And off we go. And then we actually go from there. That's often the way, isn't it? In fact, quite a lot of the way. Or for us too, actually, I think it's more a lyric first and then a melody.
I was watching documentaries. There's a terrific thing. If you like rock music, which I love, there's a guy called Professor of Rock. I actually don't know his real name. It's an American show. And he goes into such depth and he talks about it with such passion, such expertise. And he was talking about the making of one of my favorite songs, which is Tom Petty from his first solo album. And it's called Free Falling. I don't know if you know that song, Free Falling?
No.
The moment they played it, you'd know it. Right? I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing. And Tom Petty had worked out a very, very complicated thing. And Jeff Lynne, he was very close with the ELO. Remember ELO, Mr. Blue Sky and all of that?
Yeah,
okay.
Brilliant.
They were very close. And Jeff Lynne said, why don't we forget all the very complicated stuff? You've got 3 chords there. Let's do this whole song as if the 3 chords. And when you hear the song Free Falling, which is a fabulous song, it's basically the 3 chords and very, very simple. And that's what they had. And that was the music. And then Jeff Lynne just said, Free Falling. And Tom Petty couldn't work out how to fit in the words Free Falling, which he does. Free, and then the next line, falling. It's so interesting how these things are constructed and then become part of our culture.
Speaking of how these things are constructed, tell us a bit about Love Forever Burns.
Well,
you start.
Should I start about the lyrics? Or?
You two, please.
Okay.
Just learn to interrupt each other. It's fine. Ross and I do it all the time. We don't care. We're still friends. Go for it.
Okay, so the lyrics for Love Forever Burns actually originally started out being a poem, which I changed. It's really about people dealing with grief, and the person in the actual song meets someone, they fall in love, they have this wonderful relationship, and this person dies, which is evident in the lyric, and it's about actually not being able to let go, still having the feeling that that person is omnipresent, if you like. You can smell their perfume, you can see them everywhere. You know, you might be walking down the street. Oh, that looks like that kind of, and it's also about how other people can actually mock you a little bit, like, oh yeah, you know, sure you did, and how you deal with grief in your own way, and other people expect you to move on, but it's very difficult to move on when you lose someone you really love. You know. I mean, it can be any relate. It doesn't have to be a lover, you know, a mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a child. And I think, you know, you quite often have to deal with other people's expectations of how you should be dealing with. And everyone deals with grief differently, you know.
I'm wondering if by the wonders of modern technology that we should have a little listen to it now.
Okay.
Say what?
It's lovely Sarah singing.
Well, I'm not playing it. Am I playing it live? No.
No, hang on.
No.
God, oh my God!
You can say that at the BBC. Oh, Desert Island Discs. Am I playing my own stuff? Should I bring a cassette in?
Am I going to go to the piano and actually play this song?
No. As I say, I'm hoping by the wonders of modern technology we'll be able to actually hear it, and here it is.
Beneath the sweetness of your kiss, I feel your warm skin near me. All my fears just melt away. I know that you can hear me. In the distance there is a light that's looking so inviting. I long to travel there to you. I long to travel there. I lay awake and wait for you, my darling, to return. The years go by, and in my heart your love forever burns.
Oh, wow. How amazing. Love that. That's terrific.
Really good.
We got I love you.
That is really good. Sue Cressman's saying lovely. I love that.
Thank you.
And that's registered now on YouTube and places, and people can go and find that, can they?
Yes, they
Yeah.
can.
How do they find it?
Download on iTunes.
On all the media stuff, you know, that's out there. Apple
And
Music.
You got your finger on the pulse
Cool.
there, Sarah Fisher. All the media stuff that's out there.
That's where
I
it
can't
is.
remember what it's called.
Might I suggest that if you want to listen to it in full, you do a search for Love Forever Burns by Sarah Fisher and Esther Ray. There you go.
Sue Cressman's saying something very true. Boy, is this true. I'm trying to avoid not walking into this minefield, as Phil will know the moment that Esther started going into the intro. When you lose someone you love, every song. When you lose someone you love, every song on the radio means something, doesn't it? Just
isn't it strange how songs can attach themselves to certain situations?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
There is. I remember that there was a. This is going to sound so daft, but I just don't know why it reminds me of it. But then again, most things I come out with are quite daft, I'm sure. But do you know the song "Yesterday Man" by Chris Andrews?
Yeah.
Now I am your yesterdays. Dun, 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 dun,
Anyway,
that's what I am.
That's "Yesterday Man" by Chris Andrews. I just remember that. Thank you, Russell.
Thank you very much.
The very first time. The very first time that I went to go and visit my late grandmother's flat that she'd moved into. Now, this is going to sound so strange, I know, but I heard that song on the radio. And as soon as the car engine turned off, went to go and visit. That was the song that was playing. And ever since then, I think of the first time I visited my grandmother's flat. When I hear that song, it's just
that's okay. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
That's
That's right. Songs do
Andrea,
attach.
Andrea Lucas, did you read out my comments? Well, were you paying attention, Andrea?
I was going to say,
Were you paying attention? I haven't got time. You know, we're busy. Got important guests. Keep up.
Well, Andy, we read out when you said morning, gentlemen. After that, I'm not sure.
Probably. Now, what? Oh, God. Now, hey, Sue Cressman's back again. You know, I mentioned Jeff Lynne and ELO. And because I'm obsessed with drummers and drumming, Bev Bevan, who was the drummer with ELO, who's also the drummer with The Move, actually. Bev Bevan is a good friend of ours from ELO. Get you, Sue Cressman. 6 degrees of separation on this show. Isn't that weird?
And by a curious coincidence, there's blue sky out there today. I also point out...
Please turn me over.
Your song, by the way,
Thank you.
has got the royal seal of approval because my mother, a.k.a. Linda Dave, says, absolutely love that.
Oh, gorgeous.
Well,
it is on
and
iTunes.
Luckily, you won't
On
know this,
iTunes
Linda
and
Dave is
everything.
head of Sony worldwide. So there's a contract coming your way. Who'd have
Oh,
thought?
that would be nice, wouldn't
Only
it?
that were true. Lloyd Beanie, as I like to call him, Lloyd Raymond Beanie. I subscribe to the Brill building method. This is
yes.
so true. Lock the writers in a room and don't let them out till they write a hit.
Absolutely. I love a hit.
You know,
That's a hit.
You know, there's a guy that I'm still in touch with called Andrew Loog Oldham. And Andrew Loog Oldham was the first manager of the Rolling Stones. At the time, he was only 19 years old. Think about that. You're 19 years old and you're managing the Rolling Stones. And he locked Mick and Keith in his mum's kitchen. This is absolutely true. He said, I'm going out. I'm not unlocking the door until you've written at least 2 songs. And they did. They did. That's exactly how he worked with Mick and Keith back in the day.
Wow.
He now lives in South America.
And by a curious coincidence, Russ and I have been locked in our respective rooms.
Come out with sod all.
So, might I say that it's been a treat having you both on. Thank you.
Really has.
And can I just ask you to repeat one more time? If people do want to find the song, the name of it is?
Love Forever Burns.
Look at that. You see, you didn't even interrupt me. You just said
Love
it in...
Forever Burns. Yes,
love it. Forever Burn. And people can find it on all the usual platforms.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be under Sarah Fisher from Fisher and Ray, but it'll come up if you tap that in. Yes, we're also on Spotify, aren't we, as well?
Spotify, yeah. Everything.
Amazon.
Amazon, Spotify.
iTunes.
I'd just like to say that actually we have more songs in the offing, and hopefully we'll be producing a small EP rather than the album. We'll just go small
like
first,
that. When you say small, what? It's like that.
Like that. Yeah,
okay, that's good. That's good.
I'd like to actually mention. Yeah, you've got something. Your song. Got something to believe in. Yes.
Actually, yeah, we've got 2. One that's being done right now. So the lovely Chris Bonacci produced the song you just heard.
Right.
She's wonderful. She was in, what was the band she was in?
Yes. Let me just say again that after we've arranged the song and I record the stuff on my laptop, we send it to a friend of ours called Chris Bonacci, who is a very, very fine producer. And she actually lives in Australia now. But she takes all the files and basically has produced the songs for us. And she's from a band. She played in the girls' school. Yeah.
Well, might I say, if she produces songs like that, then
it's a gorgeous song.
Bravo.
Thank you.
Both very much indeed. It's been a treat. And you'll have to tell us more when the EP is out, of course.
The EP.
I'll call Russ.
The EP. Well, I don't know what you call it then. Is it called an EP?
It's called an EP. Extended play. Extended play.
Yeah.
All right.
That'd be nice.
Keep well. And speak to you anon. Farewell.
Bye-bye. Bye, ladies.
Goodbye.
Aren't they nice? Aren't they nice? Completely chaotic, but lovely. We like them.
So polite. I mean, you and I aren't that polite to each
No,
other.
screw that. If I had to be this polite for 3 hours, I'd have to. I don't know what I'd do. I don't think there'd be enough
I
drugs
do
to get me through.
similar. I don't say after you. I say after me.
You
So
do that.
Something quite similar.
Or you just ignore it. Tons and tons and tons of comments coming up. Sue Cressman, I lost connection for a while. Oh, hang on. Right. Blimey, there's a lot of things. What have we got? Angela enjoyed that. Ramsey, this is for you. Top 10. Oh, yeah. Top 10 drum intros of all time. Thank you, Ramsey. Thank you. I've got to interrupt myself. There is a brilliant video if you're into drumming, and I know Lloyd will like this. Ramsey, you'll like this, and musicians everywhere will like this. And there's a guy, I don't know what his name, and what he does is he takes the Toto song, Africa, which was drummed by the great and much missed Jeff Porcaro. What a weird way to die. He was a brilliant, brilliant drummer, Jeff Porcaro, right, Phil? He's out in LA in the garden, and he's putting some, weed killer or fly spray or something. He dies. He drops dead and dies. Had a reaction to the had a reaction to the stuff he was using on the flowers, and he died. Unbelievable. A brilliant drummer. So this guy on the YouTube channel, he drums to Jeff Porcaro's Africa by Toto, which Jeff Porcaro was the co-founder of that band, in the different styles of different drummers. It's hilarious and so accurate. Extraordinary. Paul Claridge, would you like to read Paul Claridge's comment out, please, Philip?
Paul Claridge says, I know Anna Webb won't mind me saying this. Oh, I'm always trepidatious when someone says, I know someone won't mind.
Somebody won't mind me saying this, but they think you're an arse. No.
Yes. Whenever she hears the Pretenders, Stop Your Sobbing, she thinks of her late dog, Molly, a few years ago, late one night as Molly passed away in Anna's arms. That song.
That is really not a comment I want to hear today of all days, Paul Claridge, under the circumstances, but thank you.
Did I ever tell you about the time that Anna and Molly came round to our old house? It was quite the treat because Anna and I were working on this little mini sort of film thing together. And she came round sort of 2 hours first before we sort of went off to the local park, which is where we filmed it.
That was when you were wearing your cowboy boots tucked into your jeans, tucked into your cowboy boots.
Yes, that was the one. Anyway, what happened was, I may dig this out in a bit if people
it's hilarious. You must show it. It's hilarious.
Anyway, what happened was
Phil Dave at his sartorial best.
Thanks. Anyway, what happened is that Anna came round with Molly before we set off, and we decided what we were going to talk about and how we we're going to work the film and stuff like that. And Molly went for a little run around in our garden, and she did what all good dogs should do.
Garden, a bit of weeding.
Absolutely. Well done, Molly.
Yeah.
Anna went to go and collect this. Now, I think highly of Anna. I think she's amazing. She's
great. We love Anna Webb. Woof, woof, Anna Webb.
Self-confessed a bit dizzy. And she might have, in a moment of madness, when she picked up what Molly had left behind, she might
on your house.
She'd come in, and while she was putting her coat on, she decides to put the bag on the kitchen counter.
Oh, Christ.
And now I could always tell, you see, now my mother is very, very good at hiding things, or at least she thinks she is. She's very good at hiding things.
Oh.
I'm not very good at hiding stuff either. And I could see the look on her face as if to say, get that off my counter now. So I quickly ran over and I just picked up the bag and I just said, oops, let's maybe get that off there, shall we? And of course, Anna, beautifully unaware of the situation. And she just said, oh, thanks. And she thought I was passing it to her.
She's charming, but as mad as a box of frogs. But she's great, and she's excellent with dogs. We're going to get her back on the show, by the way, Phil. We're going to get her back on the show because it is my contention, and I've been discussing this with a close friend of mine, that the dogs are pick up on our anxiety in all of this lockdown madness. And it's a big, big subject. And I'm sure your pets, let's save it for when we get Anna on the show. I want to give it probably a full hour or something, because I am sure loads of your pets, cats, dogs, probably not fish, unlikely,
I don't know. Actually. Don't underestimate the power of a fish,
especially in a sandwich. I saw Bev.
Octopus. Do you remember that for the World Cup that year?
Yeah, it was rubbish. Isn't it?
No, he chose. Seriously, he chose accurately the flags of the countries that were going to win right up to the quarterfinals.
He was bribed by Seb Blatter. That's why. Be given a brown envelope. I saw Bev Bevin, says Ramsey, in the last Move gig at the Robin 2 in Bilston. I don't know where that is. A few years ago, he's still playing with his new band in the West Midlands as a radio show on BBC West Midlands 2. Be like that. Be great. Summer Breeze by the Isley Brothers. Do you know I've never liked that song, Angela Lee? I know it's hugely popular. I don't like that falsetto singing. Love and Kisses from Francine Warner. I don't think that's a song. I think she's just sending love and kisses. Phil, have you ever undergone in a home with your parents when they say, we're going to do a little bit of decorating and it turns into building the fourth bridge?
Oh, yes.
I mentioned this because of my cousin. Because of my cousin Francine Warner. Because of my cousin Francine Warner, right? Francine and her long-suffering husband Michael decide they're going to redo the hall. That's it. Redo the hall. Have now redone the entire house. They were just going to paint the walls.
But you see, the problem
is gone on now for 2 years. I think it's 2-3 years now. It's unending. She sent me pictures today. It's chaos again.
The problem is, of course,
chaos.
Yeah, but hang on a sec. The problem is, of course, that yes, okay, I recognize that sort of that does seem a bit extreme, but with anything in life is that once you start sort of improving something, it shows the rest up. And I actually think that that's true in the form of one's state of mind and body as well. If you sort of start improving yourself, then Peter starts showing up elsewhere.
Yeah.
So to speak.
Want to give me an example or what?
Oh no, I never improve myself for that very reason. I don't
say not me. No. Waste of time. Otherwise you end up like Francine Warner redoing everything. Angelique says it was a very 60s sound, that song. Love. Was it called Love Burns?
Oh, sorry, Love Forever Burns.
Love Forever Burns. Normally you have to go to the doctors for that. Good morning to you, San Monroe. What is this? Then Kenam Janur, Top Journo, says, why do all country songs involve unfaithful wives, sick old dogs, and loads of liquor? Not to mention that my crops have just died in the field.
Well,
my pickup trucks needs an MOT.
But hang on a second. Ken Elm, it's heritage. That's the reason why.
It's heritage, yeah.
You can't possibly not
totally. Yeah. Don't dismiss Lloyd Beanie, says Lloyd Beanie. A voice from heaven.
Wow. I look forward to hearing said voice from heaven.
I've never heard Lloyd sing. Oh, no, I have.
Have you?
Now, Lloyd will not remember that I've remembered this. Years ago, when Lloydski was in the music business, successful as it so happened, and he found a record called Shut Up Your Face. And Lloyd decided, he heard it in Australia where it hadn't come over to the UK or Europe yet, and Lloyd decided you've forgotten that, I know this, had decided he would sing this song and release it as a single because he knew it would be a big hit. Sadly, the Joe Dolce version of Shut Up Your Face, one of the most awful songs ever, somehow superseded Lloyd's version. Although in existence is Lloyd Beanie singing Shut Up Your Face on a 45.
Okay, I'm now prepared, in the name of entertainment, to humiliate myself because I have found said clip.
Oh, this is great.
With Anna Webb.
This is great. Now on Deluxe Radio, this is going to be a bit awkward because you're listening and not watching, but bear with us, Deluxe Radio. Bear with us.
By the way, if you do want to watch, you're most welcome to join us. Facebook.com/Men's Radio STN. And also we broadcast live on Twitter at Men's Radio STN and on YouTube as well. So you just do a search for Men's Radio Station. You can find us across all of those platforms. Come and join, because you will actually probably find that even though I'm sure listening to this program is perfectly enjoyable,
marvelous.
I'm sure it must be pleasurable for you. You'll find that you may even enjoy it even more if you get to see what RK and I get up to in these
Because they're probably sitting there at home and Deluxe Radio all over the world going, what do these two idiots look like? And they're about to find out.
I'm perfectly sure. Anyway, well, our next two guests are waiting patiently in the digital.
But no, we've got to see your thing first. They're very comfortable in the digital green room. There's a full buffet.
They can see very clearly what we look like, and you can see that they're looking rather worried as a result of it. But anyway, let's have a little clip, shall we now? This was, I don't even know how many years ago, but it was when I was young and had hair. And I've got a problem, and allow me to introduce you to them. This is Monty, and this is Carlo. Monty and Carlo are probably the most disobedient dogs you will ever meet. Right, you two, listen up. We are going to dog school. Come on, off we go. We're going to go meet someone who might be able to make some sense of you two. Come on. Luckily, I know just the person who can help me. So, let me introduce you to the doggy maestro herself, Anna Webb. Hi, Anna.
Phil.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
So what can you do to help them?
Well, in my bag of tricks.
And if you want to see the rest of that, you'll have to
No, I just want the rest of the show to be that video.
Anyway.
It's fantastic.
Help us.
I like the Dick Emery walk.
Do you know what?
I mean, turn away and walk away. I'm thinking, it's Dick Emery.
Can I tell you what the problem was with that? Is you're quite right. It was very Dick Emery. It wasn't supposed to be, but what I didn't realize, and this is why location is so important when you're filming, is I didn't realize the ground was uneven. What you're actually seeing there is me trying to keep my balance and not falling down a hole in the ground that I didn't realize was there. So, of course, I turned around to walk away and nearly went backside over.
It is what you're trying to say. Oh, hang on. We need the jingle.
Good Lord.
Crazy name. Crazy gal. Eve Phantom. Hello, gorgeousness.
Anyway.
She's talking to you, Phil.
The walk wasn't great.
Ed Grossman. Russ loved the walk.
Yeah. And then to top it all off, Chrissy Holt. I love Jasper Carrot. Anyway, I think it was the carrot top. Anyway, that's to one side.
It's the walk. A tribute to Max Wall.
Yeah, but then I then realised, and I've only realised this watching it back, that I do this sort of weird spasm move in the middle of the second scene, and I don't know where it comes from, where I'm just sort of like almost overexcited and then just do a little bit of a pelvic thrust.
It's you being Mr. TV.
Oh, I just
like the cameras roll, and then what happened to Phil Dave? Who the hell's this bloke?
I do want to reassure people
I don't enjoy television at all. I never did. I love doing radio, but I've never enjoyed particularly doing TV. I've done it.
I do want to reassure you that I can walk. Okay, I do know how exactly sort of one foot moves in front of the other. I'd also like to reassure you now I don't wear stupid footwear that means that I can't stand up straight, and it also means that I've learned not to walk in the middle of a field where the ground might be uneven and the Cuban heel, might fall down a well. Anyway,
I think all our listeners all over the world are thinking, and we'd like to know, Phil, what was behind your thinking of tucking your jeans into your cowboy boots?
Oh, because they look amazing. Anyway, right. It's now time, to the delight of both of them, because I can see from the look on their oh so worried faces, that it is time for us to meet our next guests for today.
They're glad they're here.
Now, yeah, quite. No, but you know what? This is actually quite a serious subject, but I'm pleased we're talking about it. Not only because we do make a point here on Men's Radio, on the Daily Show with Russ Kane and myself, Phil Dave, we do make a point of talking about the subjects that don't often get talked about in the mainstream. And luckily, Dr. Parvinder Shergill and Mark Williams join us now to tell us about said subject. Good afternoon to both of you.
Hi guys, you okay?
We're fine, thank you, Mark. And Parvinder, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for replying to all my invitations. That's lovely of you, much appreciated.
I'm still laughing. Just what you just said earlier on. Sorry about
that. The problem is it only encourages us if you laugh at us. But anyway, now Parvinder, let's first of all start off with you're here to talk about quite a serious subject, aren't you? And I never know sort of really when it comes to introducing serious subjects what the right way of putting it, because obviously there's medical terminology, then there is what I might describe as ignorant terminology, what people sometimes sort of call certain situations or conditions, but then there's the correct way of introducing. How would you introduce what we're about to talk about?
So we're going to talk about my latest feature film, which I've honoured Mark, his book Daddy Blues. So the film's called Daddy Blues, and it concentrates on paternal, so father's mental health, specifically postnatal depression when a couple have a child, and focusing on the man suffering depression as a result.
So, but it is still technically in that case then postnatal depression, even though it's obviously not necessarily the father who gives birth, as it were. It's still postnatal.
Yeah. So postnatal depression means suffering, a parent, whether it's the man, woman, or parent, guardian, suffering depression as a result of a child being born within the first year.
But Mark, people quite often say that postnatal depression is only something that women get. Can you tell us sort of why that's inaccurate?
Yeah, exactly. Like Parvinder said, it's basically depression in the postnatal period. So there's always been a myth that it's hormonal. There's a hormone change in fathers. Testosterone actually lowers during this time as well. But the only way I describe it to my friends is if it was no pregnancy or baby, I wouldn't have been depressed or having suicidal thoughts in that postnatal period. So there could be a range of reasons, past history of anxiety, depression, or trauma before we become parents. And then, witnessing a traumatic birth, which is PTSD. So PTSD is an anxiety disorder, either witnessing or experiencing a life-threatening event. So there's nothing worse thinking your wife and baby is going to actually die in that situation, if that makes sense, And then if you got your partner who's going for postnatal depression, like Michelle had severe postnatal depression, where she was in crisis teams, I couldn't get to work, for 6 months, no money coming in, mortgage pay. There was loads of reasons. And like mothers, dads can't bond with their children either as well. And all the thoughts you think about mums with postnatal depression, of course, dads get them as well, like guilt, not good enough. Yeah, overwhelmed, loads of reasons. So this is a subject that, and what we found in research is high risk of suicide in new dads as well, because they're not screened or supported, and they actually get labeled depression years later. So early prevention is what we're trying to get for all parents, regardless of gender.
Interesting. Angela Lee, one of our listeners from all over the place, all over the world. We had 2 very prem babies. Everyone concentrated on me, never thought how my husband was affected, just as hard for them. Listening to you, Mark, and Parvinder, it's a wonder I'm still standing, quite honestly. I always forget the stuff that I've endured. When the twins were born, my late wife lost 70 units of blood and was in a coma for a week. So and everyone was concentrating, and the kids were so premature. They weighed 3 pounds each, and now they're just sensational. They've been sensational ever since, has to be said. But yeah, traumatic. But I just got on with it. That was the end of that.
How has medicine changed over the years towards paternal postnatal depression? Because I could just imagine, sort of based on what we speak about quite a lot on this program, and change in attitudes and a better understanding of certain conditions. If years ago a man went to the doctor, this is not a joke, by the way, if a man went to the doctor and said that I'm really down ever since the arrival of my child or children, they probably would have just been dismissed, wouldn't they?
I think with specifically men's health, it's really improved. I have to say, we have seen that change, and we're advocating so much more for men, physical health, mental health, prostate cancer, obviously men's suicide. We're really trying to raise awareness. I think specifically with postnatal depression, we're quite slow. There's still a long way to go. There's still so much research that needs to be done. Like you said, lots of people don't know about it. When I talk about it, even at work as a psychiatrist, people are like, oh, men can suffer postnatal depression. So it's still a lot we're learning about. And I think we're not great as professionals, when a woman's pregnant, and it's still happening, because of lockdown and COVID. Some fathers aren't in the waiting room or in the labor room. We're not great at thinking about the partner, We focus on the mum and what she's going through in the child, and we forget sometimes to say to the dad, how are you? How are you coping? We've got midwives for the mum, all these antenatal classes, but we don't really focus on the dad. And when we're visiting the mum, actually asking the same questions, but for the father as well. So, but conversations are happening, on the NHS side, we are becoming more aware. So positive change, especially like what Mark's doing in his advocacy there, Dad Pad is a great organization for this as well. Lots of conversations are happening on the government side and NHS side, but I think we are still a bit slow.
So do you work, just to position it, Parvinder, you're with the NHS, is that right?
So I work with NHS, and I'm also a filmmaker.
Okay. And your role within the NHS, how do you find time to do both, by the way?
Oh, wow. It's amazing what women can do.
Hey, there we go. Waiting for that one. Don't tell me. If I hear the word multitasking, I'm gonna leave. So what do you do within the NHS? Just to position it
so
for
I'm
our
a trained
listeners.
doctor, and I specialize in mental health.
Okay. So while I've got you in that case, and Mark, I'm coming straight back to you in a second. Please don't feel left out.
No, it's fine.
Right, we're in this pandemic, right? One of the things that Phil a year ago, end of last March, beginning of April, Phil said that the side effects of this pandemic are going to be terrible. You deal with mental health. What's your view as a professional?
I think, you're absolutely right. It's been something that we've all never been through before. Staff are being affected. We still have lack of PPE on some wards. Still. Lack of vaccinations. It's been a very difficult time, and you have to, it's not just for the staff, for patients and the population globally. People have experienced funeral loss, going through health crisis, so much anxiety. The referrals I see concerning anxiety and low mood have really increased, and also because children are affected obviously in this time, and parents are going through that with them at home. On the broad spectrum, it has really been affected. A lot of staff have gone off. Shortages are always a case with the NHS.
Why have they gone off, Parvinder?
Could be sickness, health reasons. Women are pregnant and they can't be working on the wards, and also the stress level has been really difficult. And also people have had to move accommodation and away from their families. It's really impacted people, not just physically but mentally as well. So staff especially, I can say definitely we need a lot more support, and I really think we're going to see an influx actually of staff mental health issues once COVID's over and we've dealt with it, with a backlog of work plus with their own issues.
No, our guests a few weeks ago, Phil will remember, was Emma. Can't remember the surname, I'm sorry, but the organization was Wingman, not Wingman the dating site. There was other guests, but also oddly enough with the same name, Wingman, and they're coming into NHS hospitals through a dedicated room so the staff can just decompress.
Oh, brilliant.
And it's been hugely successful. It's called Wingman, Mark, because it's made up of all airline staff who don't have jobs because airlines aren't going anywhere. And so some of them have taken redundancy. Some are just sitting around on their asses going, what the hell are we going to do? So they're giving back with tea and very British, but it works. Tea and biscuit.
Great,
It's called
excellent.
Wingman. I'm happy to give them a plug because she was excellent. She'd made an OBE. Was it OBE or MBE because of this? One of the two.
She has some letters after her name that we don't have.
Yeah, RAC, Blockbusters Video Club. I don't know.
The marvelous Emma Henderson is who.
Emma Henderson, that was it. Oh my God, Wingman. Apparently, according to Ed Grossman, Wingman were on the One Show yesterday. You see, where men's radio goes, the BBC follow eventually.
Now, Mark, can you please reassure us that you haven't sort of been lacking in your omega-3 tablets or something like that? Because either you've got a very creaky chair there, or you've seriously got some bone problems.
Yeah, no, it's ADHD. It is. I was actually diagnosed with ADHD at 40, so I'm very agitated, on the go. Yeah. So that's another subject again. That is honestly. But, so I'm not exactly. I'm just moving around constantly all the time. Right, so.
Just a cotton picking sound there. I was trying to make
Mark, bless you. You are my favourite guest so far this year because I haven't seen Phil like this. Phil Phil and I went to a mutual broadcasting. When in between all these ghastly pandemics, we went to a dinner party. There was only 6 of us in the garden. It was all beautifully safe. And there was somebody we didn't know. Phil did a one-line gag about something. The woman stood up and marched out the house.
Literally stood
up from the table and marched out the house. And it wasn't a rude gag. It was just a political comment in one line. And I haven't seen Phil's face like that since that last interchange. Mark, you're a very good sport. Thank you. Bless you.
No, it's fine.
You're a good guy. Now,
Anyway,
here's an interesting thing.
Back to a serious question.
No, I've got a serious question. This is backing up everything that Mark and Parvinder are saying. This is from Paul Claridge, right? Paul says, my youngest son was stillborn. Paul, do you know, I'd forgotten that. I am so sorry. As if your life hasn't been difficult enough. He's a lovely man. Paul Claridge, my youngest son was stillborn. At the time, the NHS did a lot for my wife, but for me, there was very little support. Luckily, we were put in touch with a charity called SANDS, that's SANDS, if you're listening, who were brilliant. And I say if you're listening in case you're not watching us, SANDS. I don't know.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, not many people know that if you look at the research, 1 in 10 fathers actually suffer from postnatal depression. But that research came out in 2010. So that's 75,000 fathers every year in the UK and don't even know they're actually going through this depression during this time. And men use negative coping skills like drink, avoiding situations, and the amount of relationships are breaking up because the behavior in men, because they suppress those feelings, the partner don't know what's going on, and obviously the communication is not there. So this is a big problem we got. And some of the reports are saying up to 39% of new dads were concerned about their mental health. So, you know, I mean, we're talking large, you know, this is a big subject that we need to bring to attention to, really. And the biggest killer in men under 50 is suicide, as we know.
That's why we started that's why we started the radio station, Mark, precisely for that reason. And then it's just grown out into all these other areas. Must be honest, Parvinder and Mark, I'd never considered this at all until I came across you two, and I thought that's really interesting. I'd love to have them on the show. Which you'll now regret, obviously.
You know, I love you saying that because that's exactly why we're making this film, is to raise awareness about it. Because nobody, honestly, so many people I talk to, even professionals, have never heard about this. So I'm really excited, you know, Mark and I are doing this. And Prince William actually spoke about fathers' mental health, not, you know, at Christmas time. So these conversations need to be happening. So I really hope, you know, more conversations like this happen and more men can feel safe to come forward and get that help, and we can support that.
Well, this is so weird. Sorry, Phil. I just want to jump in for a second. Sorry, Phil. It's weird because this is a real microcosm of the reason why Men's Radio Station was set up. Mark, you've just said, even if men are going into a depression or whatever they're feeling after the baby's been born, they don't talk about it. Well, that we can just extrapolate. They don't talk. Full stop. That's the problem. That's why there's 80% men suicide rate in the UK, 20% women. Women are far better at speaking about these things. So thank you, and for putting a light on issues that we would normally, people is not in the common knowledge.
And Russ, what I will say is, men will talk in a group when other men understand it as well. Because that's the only reason why I spoke out of it. Because I spoke to a guy in a gym who went through a similar experience to me. So, you know, Andy Mann's Club, we've got a lot of groups. So the men, it's a big myth that men don't talk. They will talk, but if it in a safe place and they understand what's going on. So that's why there's a lot of men's groups happening now. So
it's just instead of a safe place, because when I was writing the original sort of proposal for all of this, I thought a safe always reminds me of sort of California, and I prefer non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, that's what I meant to say. That's better.
I think it sums it up.
That's better. Yeah.
Safe is like, okay, I get it. It's a nice umbrella, but non-judgmental is what it should really be about. That people can speak without fingers being pointed, etc. This is from Kimmy Lashmar. Parvinder, I want you to think about this. Men invariably feel responsible for playing an important part. I hope people would be more empathetic to fathers as well as mothers these days.
Absolutely. And I actually have a dialogue about this in the film, so I'm glad you mentioned that. I think men, and Mark's written about this in his book, you know, we still put a lot of pressure on men to be the breadwinner, to be the provider, you know, to keep everything together, to be the pillar of the household. And I think we need to be a bit more understanding. Women as well, we need to be more understanding of men, and men to men as well, and not to put that pressure that it is okay for men to cry. It is okay if you don't have it all together. It is okay if you're difficulty in financially or with your health or whatever it might be. But we need to, as a society, we're not great at this. As a society, we need to be more understanding of that and empathize better, that men don't have to be the whole package and look like a superhero. You know, you can, you know, have a certain weight, or you can be going through something, or you can have a disability, and you're still a man and you're still worthwhile. So I think that's a valid point, and we definitely touch on that on the film.
Well, you've mentioned the film a couple of times, so let's talk about the film. The film is called Daddy Blues. And tell us a little bit about what people, obviously without giving too much away, but what would people see when they watch? Is it an education? Is it documentary style? What is it?
No, I was really keen when me and Mark were talking about this, that it would be, so about his book, Daddy Blues, but I would add a cinematic twist. So it's actually a small feature film. So it looks like you're actually watching a film, but with the underlying storyline. So I play the mum, and we have another actor who plays my partner. So it's a mixed race, diverse cast, you know, there. Where, you know, it starts off like a romantic film, happy-go-lucky, you know, couple get together, you know, all the typical things you see in the start of a rom-com, you know, piggyback, you know, enjoying the park, all this stuff.
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, all that sort of thing. And then they get pregnant, and that's when the film takes a turn, and the film gets darker, and my character goes through postnatal depression, and similar to what Mark's partner was going through in the book. And then we see, which I've added in, my partner in the film, he starts seeing a psychiatrist because he suffers postnatal depression, and he represents Mark in real life. And we see that sort of bond between a psychiatrist, a male figure, which we don't typically see in films, with Mark's character kind of throughout the film talking about what happened in the journey of their relationship and where they get to, and sort of a positive outlet. So you will be taking on a drama like a film you would normally watch, but it does have that underlying storyline of what's actually going on. And if you pay attention, though, you will pick up obviously the signs and the symptoms and treatment. But I didn't want it to be educational in your face. I want it to be that you are watching a film, but you just happen to learn things on the way.
You know what I'm thinking here? And I've been stuck since you started that last section, that you make films, you work for the NHS,
and
you're an actor. What the hell?
I know.
I can't cook.
Oh, well, Phil, we're not going round there. Forget it. Just say you're busy or something.
I've done Hollow Watch today. So.
You can't cook at all?
I'm awful. You don't want to come around.
Okay, well, you put me right off, to be honest with you. Blimey.
Just because obviously there will be some people who are necessarily aware of your story, which of course Parvinder just referred to. What is your story, just for those who sort of may not be completely aware with what it is that you've been through?
Yeah, obviously, you know, everything was great financially. Everything's great. I was in a totally different job, and I was in sales, and obviously witnessed a traumatic birth after 22 hours labour, first ever panic attack. And then when I witnessed in that labour ward, obviously was horrific. But Michelle went on to have severe postnatal depression, and she should have had a proper mother baby unit at the time. But, 16 years ago, you know, you can imagine the stigma then. It's a lot better now. Obviously, it's getting better, I should say. So as a man, I couldn't tell my wife how I was feeling, couldn't tell my friends. And obviously, my personality totally changed in the postnatal period. Then, you know, I was punching sofas, bust my hand, you know, all sorts of things, and using alcohol. Unfortunately, when I to cope with it, because my mind was constantly racing, and I did initially bond with my son. Initially, I think that bond and attachment grew because I was home alone, or when my wife was unwell in bed, skin to skin. You know, obviously releases oxytocin, all sorts of things, and so there was a lot of good outcomes as well outside that. But, you know, I suppressed it for years, and then I entered community mental health services after, unfortunately, a breakthrough, they call it, or breakdown. And because I just carried on, and I was physically fit during this time. I was doing kickboxing, but mentally it was impacting on my physical health as well. So, you know, that's why it's so important, mental health. I know, like Parvinder said, you know, positive side of it, I've always wanted something good to come out of something bad. So my wife works in mental health. and I work in mental health since 2006 onwards, and I've just obviously done books, work with Dr. Jane Handley, and
Mark, let me ask you this, if I may, Mark. And by the way, this isn't the BBC, so don't feel. Our rule is if you don't want to answer, you just say I don't want to go there, and that's fine, because it's a conversation. It's not an interview, and it's never adversarial ever. Never wanted that, and it feels the same. When you had your mental breakdown, everything hit the wall, so to speak. How did that manifest itself?
But basically, I was having thoughts during the time. So I did. Unfortunately, I lost my grandfather and my mother through cancer. My mother's fine now. She had cancer at the time, so within weeks of each other. Because I hadn't dealt with everything in my life, the time and the trauma, it all came ahead at that moment. And I basically, like in the car one day, I couldn't get out of the car. So I couldn't, because I kept on going, thinking I'd be good tomorrow. I was worried what people thought. I thought I wouldn't get a job in mental health because I was already working in mental health then. So I was working in like secure units and stuff. And so I thought if I go to the GP, it'd be on my notes, I wouldn't get a job, which is all totally wrong now, as we know. But so there's a lot of barriers why I didn't get that help, really. And I think, I entered community mental health. So I was never diagnosed with PND, post-natal depression, or PTSD, never. I was actually diagnosed with ADHD. And that's another disorder, which is in my generation, I'm 47X, which has never been picked up on as well. So before I became a parent, like a lot of dads, bipolar, schizophrenia, ADHD, ASD, they're self-managing that before they become parents. And then the lack of sleep has a massive impact in mental health. Severe lack of sleep can even cause psychosis, as we know. So it was loads of reasons why I was depressed in that postnatal period, and that's where we got to get education. Is you ask any mum, you can't say I had postnatal depression because of that. It's impossible because mental health is so complex.
I bet you were a fantastic salesman.
I
can tell because some people are natural salesmen, and you are an absolute natural salesman.
We spoke about this film, and in that first meeting, I was like, by the end of it, I'd already agreed to direct it and write it. I don't know how he does it.
Oh, hang on, you're directing as well. You're unbelievable, this one.
I know she is. I know.
Now, I got a question. And I'm just going to play devil's advocate for a second here. Have you had any sort of knockback from women saying, just a minute, we're the one who goes through 9 months of absolute hell. We're the one who gives birth, which is just diabolically painful, and you're moaning about it. So have you had any sort of, from the female side, anybody saying that at all?
I think in the early days, 11 years ago, it was, my work has never been taking attention away from mum. It never has been. It's about parents. If nobody was shouting for mums 10, 11 years ago, I'd be known for maternal mental health campaigner. And the thing is, what we're finding now, the mums are actually saying to us and pushing us, especially since COVID, to say, look, hang on, I've had this wonderful support, but my partner hadn't. So it's actually the mums now. But in the US, we are finding now that where we were 11 years ago, the mums think, it's about taking the attention away from mums. So, but the UK, no, it's totally changed because they understand because people know I campaign for the Mother Baby Unit in Wales. I'm not just about fathers. I actually campaign for all parents, regardless of, same gender parents, everyone should have that early prevention support. So it's actually the mums, and actually the mums used to phone me up and say, Mark, I'm fine. Can my husband come to the group because he's struggling? And that's actually impact on her mental health as well. So so up to 50% of dads will get depression looking after a partner with post-depression. Well, if only dad is the only one struggling, well, up to 50% of dads, mums will get depression looking after. Because when I was unwell, unfortunately, my wife's depression came back. So it's all about a holistic approach, parents, and that early prevention is key.
So it's so interesting. We have come such a very long way in really a very short time. How what's the duration of the film? I bet our friend Sen Monroe is making notes now because he did a brilliant film about Parkinson's. Parvinder, how long is the film?
That's the question. We're in editing at the moment, so I don't have an answer. But I'm aiming for about an hour because we want to show it to NHS as well. So we don't want it to be too long. For most people, can do an hour and a half.
I thought we were going to say something like, and I'm serious, because Sen Monroe's brilliant film about Parkinson's is 20 minutes long, and it's so impactful.
No, it will definitely be about 45 minutes.
Half an hour, 40 minutes, so an hour. Yeah,
Actually,
45 minutes to an hour, hopefully.
Yeah.
But speaking of length of time, is there a sort of a set time for how long postnatal depression lasts in an individual, whether it be mother or father, or is it just different for everyone?
It's completely different for everybody, and I think Mark will agree with that. It's case by case. Usually you get diagnosed in the first year if you're suffering from it, but it's really on how much support you're getting, or if you need medication or psychological input, and your structure around you. So it really varies.
And is it something like PTSD that sort of is, say, always lurking there in the background, or can you recover from it and you'll never be troubled by it again?
Oh, sorry, Mark. I thought you were about to
Yeah, you're right. What I'm saying is a lot of mums getting diagnosed with post depression, but sometimes it could be the symptoms from the PTSD. And like you said, PTSD can be really easily resolved through, obviously, EDMR. Some people use it. Obviously, I'm not going to promote, because that's the thing with mental health. What works for me may not work for that other person.
You're using a lot of initials there. What is ED?
EDMR.
Okay.
It's like a rewiring technique of the brain, so you take it back to the memory. But it's loads of stuff on the PTSD UK website. I would definitely recommend people to look. They know far more about PTSD than me. But the point is, we got to ask about the birth experience as well, because a lot of mums, like Michelle now, she was diagnosed with severe postnatal depression. It was a lot to do with the trauma from the birth, but there is an overlap as well. It is an overlap.
And of course, EDMR is the eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy.
That's the one, yeah. I'm glad you said that, Phil.
You knew that, didn't you, Phil? You knew that.
Dr. Google's a brilliant thing. I am very open and honest on this program, and there are a lot of things that I don't know about, proudly don't know about, because actually it's the admitting you don't know is when it starts to change. And this program it actually sort of sounds, Parvinder, very much so like the film that you're trying to make. I believe that there's an education behind this program, primarily because by the time people finish listening, they'll say, well, that's taught me a lesson. But no, but it's mainly that if they listen to the program or watch it, I hope that what they'll take from it is something that maybe they didn't realize before, but not feel as if they're being talked down to or told off for not knowing it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's exactly it. I didn't want it to be in your face, as I said. I wanted it to be, because cinema is so powerful, especially in lockdown. Everyone's, binging on so much TV and film. And I really wanted a strong message to come through with it being subtle, and you coming away and thinking about things that you hadn't thought about before.
So how are you going to distribute the film?
Oh, well, we're hoping to get it on Amazon Prime. I have been in contact with other big platforms, but we thought Amazon Prime might be a bit better for this film, because it's universal. We can just get it out straight away.
Marvelous.
That would be sensationally good, wouldn't it?
Well,
and actually, when you really can have a proper launch party, we recognize the premiere might be a bit... Well,
yeah, it's been hard.
Wouldn't be much of a premiere, let's be honest, if it's been on Amazon Prime and other streaming platforms for a considerable amount of time. But who knows?
Exactly. We were going to have a premiere, but obviously because of lockdown, we're not been able to do that.
So. I'll tell you something. Phil and I were we both went to it. Didn't we? When Sen, who was a guest, he was a guest on our show. I didn't know from a hole in it was chap Sen Monroe, and he came on as a guest, and he's an ex-CID murder detective, as it happens, and then he gave that all up and started to make movies and write a comedy, bizarrely, but this wasn't a comedy film. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to have a premiere," and I thought, "Yeah, right, of course he is." Well, blow me down! It was so popular, so I'm giving you hope here, Parvinder. What I'm saying, it's possible. So this chap did it all on a shoestring budget, got some great actors involved. Script was great, acting was phenomenal. He had to have 2 premieres, both in the West End.
Wow.
2. And there wasn't a seat to be had. We had to have 2 sittings. and Phil and I went to one, and there wasn't a seat to be had. And it was really interesting.
No, it was really annoying. All the audience had to stand up.
There were people standing at the back. I know Phil's being silly, but it's true. And I went on my own. Well, Phil went in the front. I think you would Jill Kenton or somebody. I can't remember who it was. And I'm sitting at the back on my own. And four women came and sat next to me. They'd been drinking, and they thought it was a jolly. But this is the power of what you're saying, Parvinder and Mark. And suddenly their mood changes as they get involved with the story of the film and the script and the power of it. And there's four of them are sobbing their hearts out. So, film is such a powerful medium. Right, when it's done appallingly badly, it's just pants. But it can tell such a powerful story, so much more easily, and deal with things that you can't, that normally don't come into conversation,
Absolutely. So, Mark, the
idea of having a premiere and thinking of the impact that these things can have. It's a great. I hope you. How on earth did you even start? Did you phone up Jeff Bezos and just say, Jeff, I'm making a film? He went, okay, put it on Amazon Prime. That'll be all right. Is that what you did?
Who, me?
Information.
With this film, you mean? Or?
Yeah.
No, I've been aware of Mark for a while. He came on a podcast I was doing for Mental Health a while ago, and I've always been really in awe of him. He's making waves. I was really impressed, and we've been planning to kind of have a chat for a long time, and then we finally got round to it, and it was hysterical. Mark, I think it was literally October, and we had a chat. It was something really not too far away, and he was like, oh, we were just talking, and we were like, I don't know how it happened, but I was just like,
we talked for a while. No, yeah. And we said,
sorry, hang on a sec. Do you ever sleep? Hang on a second. Doctor in psychiatry, filmmaker.
I'm literally in my bed, so yeah.
Actress.
And
Prep cook. Remember that.
I know. I don't know.
Brief. Anyway, what's the podcast called?
It's the Mental Health Book Club podcast, and we've won an award from the Royal College. We've gone to Parliament with it. Mark's been on it, so we've had some great guests on it.
I know that we haven't, but let's not dwell on that. It's fine.
You're our special guest soon.
Mark, in all seriousness, how long after your son was born did you start thinking something's not quite right here? Was it a case that I want to know sort of whether or not it was a real sort of distinctive line that was crossed, or whether or not it was a bit blurred and you sort of felt a bit maybe tired, didn't know where it started, and then suddenly, okay, this is not right. Where was that moment you thought, I need to look into this further?
3 to 6 month mark, I would say I was really unwell, suicidal thoughts, but I think I just kept on going. I kept on going, and I wasn't the same person going back in my old job in sales, because in sales there was so much pressure. So when I did manage to get back into sales, I just couldn't cope anymore. I couldn't do the same sort of pressure. But I did like a lot of men did, do, and just didn't talk about it. I used to avoid situations, go up a mountain and sleep in a car, masking my emotions. I couldn't stay in a bed because my wife.
Stop. You go up a mountain and sleep in a car.
Yeah, because I couldn't stay in bed all day. Because I couldn't literally when I was going for this depression, I couldn't even get out of the car. Couldn't even. But I didn't want my wife finding out. I think depression makes it one of the biggest liars sometimes, because I didn't want to show my wife that I was struggling, because Michelle was already.
You say I'm going off to work now, dear, and then get in the car and drive up a mountain.
Well, when I was self-employed, I could do my own hours, so I used to just drive and pretend to go work and then sleep in the car.
Mark, do you know how common that is? Do you know how many guests Phil and I have interviewed? Hundreds and hundreds of guests now, even though we only started doing our show January 2019. But the number of people who have faked their lives to not show what they perceive as weakness to their partner is quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary.
Yeah,
If it makes you feel any better, Mark, I once did something for the hell was it called? Centrepoint. Slept out on the street for a night big deal, right? But it drew awareness, it made some money for them, and all the rest of it. And one of the people that we met, this is going to shock you, did what you did for 6 years. He told his family and his wife he was going to work, got a briefcase, and he was on the street for 6 years before he completely ended up being on the streets.
Now I have to tell you, actually, I'm afraid that sort of when Russ says that he did it for Centrepoint, I love the way that sort of his copywriter days creeps through once in a while, where he makes something sound better than it actually is. The truth is that he'd left his keys. He'd locked himself out, and that was the only way to get around it. But, yes.
I'm not going to be in Parvinder's next film, by the way.
But with the I'm just sort of trying to sort of work out in my mind where we've gone wrong. And I'm sorry, I'm going to use the dreaded S word again, society, because why would you, Mark, feel the need to hide what you're feeling and what you're going through to the point of let's be honest, lying to your own wife? And I don't understand sort of what are we programmed to, Parvinder, help me out here, because I mean I'd love to think you
like Parvinder's the expert or anything.
The case of that we've been programmed to think that we mustn't do this, we shouldn't be feeling in a certain way, we shouldn't be behaving in a certain way, and therefore the only way we can deal with it is to lie about it, or is it something deeper than that it's actually sort of symptomatic of the condition?
I think it's, Mark, tell me if you disagree. I think it's a very deep rooted systemic issue that goes back way, generations. We really have stereotyped men, women and children in a category. And we have a long way to go. And I think with mental health especially, I mean, it is really helping that celebrities are coming forward. Michael Phelps has ADHD, lots of celebrities coming forward, but we don't typically have the patience and the empathy to ask questions in the right way and sensitively and actually want to hear the answer, because we do have a category for people and we're not very good at it, and we are getting better. And I think with Mark's situation, you have a lot of guilt when you have depression, a lot of guilt about everything. If you're worthy, if other people are worthy, you don't want to put that burden. We feel like a burden if we have mental health. Whereas, if you fracture your leg, you don't feel that sense of guilt to that extreme. Whereas mental health, you're so concerned about what other people think of you and judge you. And we haven't been great at it, in lots of industries about supporting mental health. And now we have first aid workers in mental health, which is great. But you do get that sense of that you put so much pressure on people if you talk about that. Mark, do you agree with that?
Yeah, you're right. And I think I'm from a mining community, but so my father's a miner, my grandfather's miners, my uncles. I'm the first generation not to go underground. So, if I had a problem, I got fantastic parents and family, but there was no conversation about mental health. So if I had a problem, my father would say, let's go to the pub and have a pint. Those sort of things. And it was very much in our community, we used to always look up to the hard men and all these. So, it's our beliefs have been passed down from generation to generation. And, when it comes to fatherhood, I'm a different, obviously, my grandfather was a traditional father, go to work, down a pub, food on the table. My father was like, used to do the ironing, because my mother worked, she was a mental health nurse at the time, and after me, she went into working in a garage. So, obviously that changed. And like with mums now, luckily, and thankfully, mums are in Parliament now, and dads are the only ones staying home. We're not the breadwinners anymore. So there's loads of factors that we got to take into place, but it's all about our beliefs from our own parents. But I think the next generation coming through is really changing about mental health. And my son's more educated. He's probably more educated at 16 than I was at 30 years of age, because we're having those conversations about, and obviously my wife worked in mental health as well. So it's about having a conversation about our mental health. And coming in from what I know about it, it's actually more important sometimes than physical health, because like I said, I was physically fit, but mentally it was actually impacting my physical health. And aches, pains, all these sort of things we got to kind of associate with depression as well. So you're right, yeah. We need to start changing. And I think it is changing for the positive as well.
And I think it's the stereotype, isn't it? Why can't men stay at home and be the house husband? Why can't they cook? Why is it that women, you know what I mean? So all these little things, and it's like domestic violence. People forget men can be a victim as well. And because we put people in a box, and I think we need to be a bit more open about that what women suffer, men can as well.
We've had guests on the Daily Show of men who have had been the victims of domestic violence, and it's a double-edged sword, no pun intended. One is they're having the crap beaten out of them. I'm not talking about just verbal abuse, I'm talking about physical abuse. And two, they are so embarrassed that as a man they're being beaten up by a woman. Now it could be stereotypical, you can say whatever you like, but those are the facts, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. That's how they feel. And I don't know about you, Parvinder, you're the professional, but it's no good telling somebody, well, they're wrong. If that's how they feel,
it's
that's
because
how they
we're
feel,
conditioned, aren't we, to think like that. Women are conditioned to feel that we are the weaker species. Men are conditioned to think they should be the stronger man. So of course, I completely resonate if men feeling like that. And actually, domestic violence for men is 1 in 3, 1 in 4, and it's very common. But even the criminal system needs to change. When men come forward, we need to listen to them. If it takes a lot of courage, that first step in any situation is the hardest. And if men do come forward, we need to be there with open arms and open doors and listen. And that is the first step that we all need to be participating.
And of course, Parvinder, and I'm sure Mark will agree, and I'm not knocking the police, but if you were to find back then an institution, an organization which was very blokey, right? We don't normally have this type of conversation, but it was very blokey, and a bloke came in and said, my wife's beating me up and my girlfriend's beating me up. They would go, really? Get a grip. It would not be it would not then be well received. Now, it would, I think there'd be much, much more sympathy because there's a bigger understanding of it. And that's without even going into male rape, which we're not going to discuss right now.
Exactly.
Because it's beyond the subject matter. It's a whole different subject. But that you talk about Parvinder being brave. That's hugely brave.
If there's anyone out there as well suffering from DV as well, it's Mankind as well. If there's any men, and that's the other thing we need to change the conversation, because a lot of health maternity services just ask mum and actually say to mum, can I speak to you only? And we don't need to see dad, or dad doesn't need to be present. And that conversation about domestic violence is only talk to the mum. That needs a change as well. Anyone, as we know, can actually suffer from domestic violence. So
somebody brought in, I don't know if it was Boots, it could have been Boots the chemist, or somebody brought in a very clever thing that you could write down a word. So it looked like you were. Who was
go up to the counter. It is Boots the pharmacist. What you do is you go up to the counter and you ask to speak to an individual who I'm terrible. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
But you ask to speak to an individual, and that is actually the customer's code for saying, I need help here with something.
And they go in, yeah, that's right, yeah, and they go in the back room, and yeah, that's right, yeah. So it is. So there's loads of reasons why men, can suffer during this time as well. Loads of factors, and but yeah, I just like Pavana, we could talk about it all day, all the stuff we know about different things. It's so complex, mental health. There's so many issues.
I wonder if both of you could do me and Phil a huge favor. We have a YouTube channel, which is oddly enough called Men's Radio Station, with huge originality. If you could subscribe, and you could get your Mankind gang, Mark, to subscribe to it just takes you 10 seconds to smash the subscribe button, and that's it. Parvinder, if you could do the same with your NHS pals, that would make such a difference to us at Men's Radio Station. It costs you 0, would take you 6 seconds, if that, and would just make a big difference for us and everybody watching and listening as well. If you could subscribe to the Men's Radio Station YouTube channel, that'd be great. Now, when your film comes out, which it will, we would like you back. Number one, both of you,
great,
please. Number two, we would like to. What we'll do is we'll put links up on our website and all our various social platforms. because we'd love to support it as well. And Phil only likes to be collected in a Mercedes-Benz S-Class for the premiere. So if you could make a note, Parvinder. Knowing Parvinder should be the driver as well, and should be the mechanic. I mean, it should be all of that.
I'll be a security guard as well.
And should be a security guard. Then should be on duty as the commissioner of the cinema. Then should be selling the ice creams and programs.
I think, Parvinder, what you haven't told us is you're actually one of the few people who has discovered the secret to cloning, and what there actually is several Parvinders all over the place.
I don't think she works for mental health at the NHS. I think it's an NHS secret cloning program. That's what it is. That's where the money's gone. Unbelievable. Must be loads. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, Mark. It's great to see you. I mean, we've never met before, but you seem so full of vim and vigor and life, which is fantastic. Parvinder, you are clearly a force of nature, and I'm predicting, because there's a great line which has always dominated my life. It's from a silly film called Field of Dreams, right? And he goes, "If you build it, he will come." And this is like the first film you're going to make. I'm guaranteeing it. You'll go on and do great stuff.
Thank you so much for having us.
See it a mile off.
Thank you, Lars. Thank you.
It's been our pleasure. Thank you so much. So please stay in touch. That would be.
I'll get a different chair next time as well. So we'll speak as well.
So Phil doesn't embarrass himself. Now I can spend 10 minutes taking the piss out of him.
There's absolutely no guarantee that I'll embarrass myself, but at least on the plus side, maybe there'll be less chance. Anyway, to Parvinder Shargill and also Mark Williams, thank you both.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Ross. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
It's great, isn't it? Isn't it amazing when you meet people like that and they're just like so life affirming?
We often have that on this show.
No, we do, but it's always wonderful. I think all our guests are terrific. And every now and then, in every way, they add something to life. I have got to get a biscuit or something. I tell you for why. Because I'm beginning to feel a little faint. I'll be quite frank with you, because I haven't had anything today. So, and the stress of Ebony. Can you give me 2 seconds? I'm just going to get a biscuit.
Don't worry about it. Should I go and check my collar while you're at it?
Jesus Christ.
I don't understand. It's so funny. He gets very twitchy about the notion of when I want to eat, and yet it's okay when he wants to go off and have some food. Look, by the way, I do appreciate that it's quite an unusual. If you're just listening, by the way, on Deluxe Radio, and you're thinking, what the heck am I tuned into here? Seriously, this is the Daily Show, by the way, with Russ Kane and Phil Dave, and we might be what you could say is a non-conventional radio program in many ways, okay, in the sense that we don't like sticking to the traditional and frankly tired format that many radio stations do follow, where they speak to primarily the same regurgitated guests time and time and time again, speaking about the same subjects that frankly don't really mean that much to a lot of people. And even if they do, they only mean something to them because they're kind of being sheep and following. Here on Men's Radio, we're very proud of what we cover, what we talk about. We try and think very much outside the box. And I hope that you're enjoying what you're listening to. And as I said before, just in case you did want to watch along rather than listen, you're most welcome to go to mensradiostation.com, or you actually go on social media to facebook.com/Men's Radio STN. On YouTube, do a search for Men's Radio Station. And on Twitter, it's at Men's Radio STN. Oh, and by the way, you can also call us as well. If you did want to get involved with the program, you're most welcome. 0203 290 4411. 0203 290 4411. Join in. If there's any experience that you've had that you think would be a worthy contribution, and by the way, even if you think it's not a worthy contribution, do it.
Absolutely.
Tell us about it.
I knew I'd be in trouble. Ed Grossman. Russ, in France, it's illegal to eat at your desk. I learned that this week. Presumably, being French, it's okay to shag at your desk, though, but eating, they won't like.
If you are going to take example from our friends across the pond, that it's illegal to eat at a desk, then frankly, I tell you what I have noticed. This is not necessarily going to be that interesting. But we are. No, I feel like it's important to,
No change there.
to precurse. No, I feel like it's important to precurse these things. But don't choke on your biscuit, dear.
Thank
anyway,
you. Oh God, you started me now.
Oh dear, what a terrible shame. Right. Can I just point out karma is most unkind? I can't help but notice that I've got, and this is going to sound so strange, but since doing all of the hand washing over the last year, which obviously I've washed my hands before, I'd like to point out, and that's not complete novelty to me, but certainly I'm doing that far more than I used to. Since then, my skin is so dry, and only my hands, so it must be something to do with the constant use of soap, because now I find myself sort of, whereas I would sort of wash my hands maybe a handful, no pun intended, a handful in terms of times a day. Now it's if it's not, every hour or every half hour, it's certainly every hour and a half. I don't like to sort of leave anything to chance anymore, whether it's using the Alka-Gel stuff or whether or not it is just properly sort of thorough scrubbing. But oh, thank you, Glassy Amanda. Oh, thank heavens for that. It's not just me. She's also said my hands are red raw. And it's not like I'm not using cream. Just, I did warn you, I'm so sorry. Just what's my life become? I'm talking about hands being dry on radio. This is not what I got into the industry for at all. But I'm being serious. It just sort of starts to irritate after a while. Oh, dear, dear. Right, you'll be delighted to hear that Russ Kane has returned. Have you changed your top? Hang on, he can't hear me because he's got his earbuds. Have you changed your top, excuse me?
What's the matter?
Have you changed your top?
No, of course I haven't changed the top. I had to get a coffee. I'm sorry. I haven't had anything today. I had to go and get a cup of coffee. Is it okay to like your own posts? Absolutely, Ed. It's perfectly okay. Have you covered this? Why is Glassy Amanda's hands red? What's she been doing?
We've already covered this. As I was saying,
I'd fill me in. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, you took your earbuds out. You weren't listening. But anyway,
of course, I took my earbuds out because they don't stretch to go and get my coffee at the coffee machine.
So anyway, I'm sure that the listener will be riveted to hear this.
Then don't do it again. Don't do it again.
Very quickly, I was just saying that my hands are very dry because of all the times I wash it. And Amanda was just sort of joining in, saying absolutely that she was feeling the pinch as well, for want of a better term. Oh, there you go.
I had this made in America. I got one made for a friend of mine as well, but obviously not with Ebony and Russell because that would just be bizarre. It's so sweet. Look at that.
This is interesting. Martin Allen says, Phil, alcohol dries out the skin. That's very curious because when I run out of alcohol, I run dry.
Wah. I alluded to a couple of things. This show isn't about me and Phil, it's about you. I mean, and that sounds like a horrible American cliche, but it's true. It's about you guys. It is about you guys, and it's about the contribution that you make, and it's about our guests. But I didn't want to go into it, and I'm not going to go into it now. But we're talking about births and everything. If you ever want to read, probably why my mental state wanted to create Men's Radio Station, along with my wonderful business partner Howard Jameson. There's a book you can get on Amazon. It's called Shout at the Moon, and it'll tell you all about stuff. There we go. Shout at the Moon by Wah. There we go. Yeah, baby.
What's you do realize what time it is, don't you?
Holler time.
It absolutely. I've realized I haven't checked on it, and
but your mum said it was okay.
Today,
it's just like Radio 4, isn't it? People on Deluxe Radio going, "What the bloody hell?" Yeah, Phil makes. I'm translating this into English as opposed to what, right? Every Friday, Phil makes some bread, right? And it's become, for God knows why, a feature of the show that he then wanders in to see how the bread's doing. This is rubbish if you're listening, great if you're watching.
And that's precisely why I say that if you did want to come and watch the program, you'd be very welcome to do so.
Yeah, we'd love you to come in.
Oh, do you know what? I absolutely have no idea why this is the case, but I've just opened up my phone, and the first thing that comes up for some peculiar reason in my news feed, not that they really, doesn't it just go to show that you don't always find algorithms get to know you very well? It's come up in my news feed. Romeo Beckham shows off his new and first tattoo. Right.
Wow. Stop the show.
Just why?
Gives a shit, honestly. I don't care. Do you know, to me, the worst thing this week, apart from my lovely little dog being in the vet, was Piers Morgan's life story with Gemma Collins.
Don't. For
Who the give up?
Honestly,
give up. I gave up at that point. I gave up at that point. It's just rubbish, isn't it? Ramsey says, "What's the recipe today, Phil?" That was the old Jimmy Young show. Do you remember any of that? No, I don't know if Phil remembers any of that. Jimmy Young would do this thing. He'd do a recipe every day on Radio 2. Now you can listen to Radio 2 if you're 12.
Idea.
No, which way are you going?
I think that's a good idea. Okay. Right, anyway, okay, so now...
What are you wearing around your neck?
It's a polo neck.
You're wearing a chain?
Oh, I've got a dog tag on.
Had to say the word dog, didn't you, today? Pierce has run out of victims, says Ed Grossman. I'm really nervous about. To be honest with you, Phil, I'm really very nervous about. I'm trying not to show it. Yeah, Raymonda. You go. What's the recipe today? Well, Raymonda, today it's shepherd's. I can't remember how Jimmy Young. It's very professional. Oh, that looks good. Oh, there's a nice sheen. There's a nice sheen to it. Probably missed the sheen.
I can't take responsibility for the sheen.
Did your mum
actually? I had to. I'm afraid I sort of I was trying to say before is I fell a little bit behind today schedule-wise. So I have a banana. I fell a little bit behind schedule-wise today. You see, and as a result,
your mum's just made such a fabulous faux pas. Your mum. This is one of the best things. Your mum, Linda Dave, has just written. Yeah. I nearly texted you to tell you about PM, Piers Morgan, and the bike, GC, Gemma Collins. And now she's written vile, not bike. You know, predictive text is completely on a subliminal. I thought for your mum, she's so polite. I thought a bit much calling Gemma Collins a bike. She didn't mean bike, it was predictive text. That is just fantastic. Linda, that is hilarious.
I dare say that there is possibly an element.
Oh, don't go there. Don't go there. That was complete. I couldn't think of it. Freudian slip. That is hilarious, isn't it? That is it. I was at a party once. It was an okay Christmas party, and I didn't know who this woman was. It turned out it was her some years ago. So I don't watch those reality shows. I'm not being snobby about it. I just don't watch them. So if you don't watch, I don't watch soap, so I don't know who the people are. And you know, I love it when people say, "Oh, I just want to be left alone. I want to be left alone." Blah blah blah. And then I happened to come out. So I'm not much of a party person, and I came out on the street, and the way she cavorted, pretending to avoid the press packs, tells you everything you need to know.
Ugh.
I'm just not like that. You know, I've been doing this game a long time, and fame and that crap word celebrity, which is meaningless now, it's never been something I've been interested. I've been interested in the work. I love the work. Celebrity, I think it's for idiots. And any of my friends who have made it in the industry in a big way, they're not interested in celebrity. They love the work. And that's what it's about. And that's what gives me the kick. And that's what I wake up and if we're doing the shows together and when I'm doing ABC of CBD, that's what I look forward to, because it's the work. It's not, and what it can achieve and the joy of trying to make it better. In our case, obviously not. So I don't understand this whole bullshit celebrity thing. It's just nonsense to me. What does it mean? It's vanity, isn't it?
Ramsey says he's even got a mosquito tent covering the collar.
Oh, yeah. Why have you got that? There's no flies in Hert. What are you in a tropical section of Hertfordshire or something?
No, it's a paranoia thing, because we're quite, as a family, twitchy about germs and stuff, and especially my mother and I. And as a result, we just feel that it's better to cover something rather than leave it exposed, even though the truth is that if you go into a shop and buy a loaf of bread, especially at some sort of artisan bakery, they're all exposed. They just sort of sit there on the shelf.
I wrote a letter I used to go and get my hair cut. I've been cutting my own hair since last January. Yes, I know it looks like it, but I used to go to a little barber's in Dulwich. And opposite was, what's the name of that bit? There's a patisserie. It's a big branch.
Valerie?
Say it again.
Patisserie Valerie?
No, not Patisserie Valerie. There's another one. They got one in Hampstead on the corner.
Oh, Paul's.
No, not Paul's either. There's another name. It's a women's name, I think. Woman's name, is it?
Gales.
Gales. Thank you. Gales Bakery. And I went into. I thought I'd get myself a little cake or a little sandwich. I get myself a sandwich.
I hope you had a mortgage first.
Well, first of all, it was the national debt of Bolivia. Secondly, there wasn't Richelieu, Linda. It was Gales. Thanks, Francine. It was Gales. And I walked in, and so there's the mums with all their little kids, right? And they've got the food, and it's all over the place. But there's a big central table, which is the big shtick with Gales, with the food parlour, and the kids are going up, and I'm standing there going, please don't tell me they're going to do this. Oh, yes, they did. The kids go up, they're touching all the food. The mums aren't saying anything. And I think, if you think I'm going to buy that after your kid has just shoved their hands all over it, you've got on. And I wrote to Gales and I said, you've got to be kidding me. I walked out. I couldn't believe. I thought it was revolting. Sorry, I just did. Maybe it's me. Other people probably think it's sweet. I don't think it was sweet. It was awful.
Oh, Ed's raised such a valid point here. It's just reminded me that he said, Phil, Russ, I'm still seeing people handling veg and breathing over them. Right. Okay.
Don't get me started.
The other day, in a fruit and veg shop, right? And I actually have stopped going there now as a result of it.
I thought this was the one you liked so much and you've discovered and you were excited about.
Oh, no, this is the local one I've discovered, which is still great. But no, there's one that I used to go to before, and I won't say where it is or identify because it's not very fair. But this
32, the High Street, Edgware.
But one of the people who worked there was just pouring out the carrots by hand, like literally just grabbing them with the hand, not wearing gloves, nothing like that. Now, I know you wash carrots. I know you peel them and everything.
You're going to wash the carrots. You're going to cook the carrots. Right?
I don't care. Just stop handling everything with your bare hands. Put gloves on or something, or do something that's a bit more hygienic.
Let me ask you this, and it's not me being silly. It's a serious question. If they put on, Philip, the disposable gloves, of which I've got 3 whacking great packs here, right? They put on. What are you doing now? What is this?
I'm flipping my reed diffuser.
Okay, look, that sounds great on radio, on Deluxe Radio. They're thrilled. Now the reeds are being overturned. They're going back into the container. Phil is arranging the reeds. They're black reeds, but we don't know at this stage what aroma they are. The reed diffuser is going back on the desk, back to the studio. Anyway, so if they're wearing their disposable gloves, right?
The reed diffuser, by the way, just so you've got it on record, is tobacco and black pepper.
Get you. You don't smoke.
I know, I don't.
I love cigars. I don't smoke cigarettes, can't bear them, but that's just me. I'm lucky because otherwise I'd probably be a heavy smoker. I'm really very lucky.
Yeah,
I don't like cigarettes. It's just it's not a moral thing. It's not a health thing. I just don't like them. Thank God for that. It's a miracle, really.
I know. It's a very nice smell, actually.
No, it sounds great. For tobacco and what? And black pepper. Nice.
2 things I can't stand, and yet when combined, very good.
Excuse me, you don't like black pepper?
Vile stuff.
How can anybody not like? How can you not like pepper? How can saying I don't like oxygen?
I can tell you very easily how I stand pepper is because I find that it drowns the taste of everything. It's the same with salt. I don't add salt to anything. Okay. If I'm cooking, I put salt into the food, but not when I'm sort of at the table. I don't use table salt at all.
My mum was the worst for that. My dad would always start yelling at her. How was your upbringing, Russell? Shit. Anyway, so it was like she'd sit down to dinner or whatever it was and grab the salt cellar. She hadn't even tasted it. And she's giving it some. And Dad would say, you haven't even tasted it yet. I know it needs to. You give it a taste. It's always so relaxing having dinner. Oh, blimey. Can't say I miss that. Miss them, but I can't say I miss that. Hey, the other thing, did your parents do this? It just occurred to me. This was my dad, right? So there was only the 3 of us. And don't forget, I was sent away to boarding school at 9, so I wasn't there much of the time. But I was, right? When Dad had finished eating, and how many other of your fathers did this? I'd love to know. The moment he's finished eating, That's it. Dinner's over. So he finishes eating, picks up his knife and fork, and then he starts clearing the table. You know, Mum and I would still be sitting there eating. He's finished. That's it.
Wow.
I said, Dad, I'm still eating. How many people do that? Oh no, pepper on melon's good.
Kimmy. That's
no, pepper on melon's nice. No, Kimmy. That actually is very nice. Black pepper on melon is very nice.
Yikes! That is most definitely not my thing at all.
No, it's good.
I don't really like melon actually either.
Ramsey says, "Do you still smoke a cigar that was rolled on the thigh of a dusky maiden? Hope she washed."
Well,
I should be so lucky.
The light would actually burn anything off.
No, it's they are handmade. All cigars are still made in very small factories in Havana. I mean, the good ones, not the mass-produced ones, obviously. Ginger on melon. Yep. Okay. That's good. Ramsey, I'm not going to go back about the Piers Morgan thing because I just can't be asked. I'm sorry. I just don't want to give it any more oxygen and publicity. I don't care. I'm not interested. And there we go.
Well, actually,
although I get the appeal. I get it. I understand why it works. It's the same as it worked for Jade Goody. It's the same thing. And I get how it works. Okay. How many times, Martin Allen, would you like to read this, Philip?
Do we watch a cookery program and garlic, onion, salt, pepper is always used no matter what the cook? Why?
Don't know.
Well, I think it's because, and I could be wrong about this, I'm prepared to be corrected, but I believe that it's something to do with more chemical reaction in the food, that it actually brings out the flavor of some of those food types. So even though, yes, you're right, an awful lot of the time you have garlic, onion, salt and pepper, you wouldn't necessarily taste the same thing when you eat different foods with those additional food types within them, because apparently it sort of brings out some sort of flavor and aroma within them.
Yeah,
As I say, I don't personally add salt or pepper at the table. I'd add
but
it
you
when
put it in the cooking, right?
I'd add it when cooking, yes.
Okay, fair enough. How come, this is the big question about mental health today, that you didn't bring some of the holler back so you can annoy everybody watching you as you eat it and go, this is lovely.
I'm pleased you brought that up, because this was a subject that I wanted to talk a bit about today. Because the last few weeks I have been on a bit of a diet, on a crash diet.
Yeah, because you were so fat, said nobody ever.
No, I've been, look, I'm being perfectly upfront when I say I know I'm not fat. But there is a difference. The reason why I'm not fat is because I keep very much on top of these things. If I notice that my weight starts to slip into a region that I'm not happy with, and by that I don't mean a part of the anatomy, I'm talking about
oh no, my knee's put on weight. Which one? The left one? Oh, that's all right.
Yes.
Thought for a minute you're going to be the right knee. That would be a disaster.
Oh my God, my pinky's gained a dress size. Anyway, but no, it's much more about.
Is that a euphemism, or do you mean your pinky?
I meant the toe. Well, oh, for God's sake. Anyway, right, no.
Right, I don't know what you call it. You could call it your pinky. I don't know.
Oh, help me.
Never asked. It's not really crossed my mind.
Tip the scales in a direction that I'm not very happy in. Then what I do is I sort of, for a few weeks, just pause, don't have any carbohydrates, anything like that, and just take a step back and bring the weight back down again.
So what do you eat? What do you eat then?
Well, mainly as normal, but I just try and dodge carbohydrates. So, for example, I absolutely love, as you can tell, bread. So I cut that out straight away. I might cook it, but I don't eat it. I might have a smidgen on Friday evening just to be part of it, but that's pretty much it. Maybe on Saturday morning. And then the rest of the week, absolutely not. I'm not the biggest fan of cakes and biscuits and stuff like that. So
I don't eat cakes.
Cut that out. But then the other thing I might cut out as well, I can't deny, I'm partial to a bit of ice cream once in a while. I don't care what the weather's doing. I love ice cream at the right time. And I cut that out. But one of my favorites in the morning is a certain biscuit made of wheat that people have for breakfast. And as a result of it, I cut that out. Now that's the hardest because then I flick.
Hang on, that's got sugar in it. I thought that was meant to be healthy. I don't eat cereals.
No carbohydrate. It's pure.
Good news. Kimmy Lashmar can still fit in the earrings that she wore at school. See, that's looking after your weight, looking after your physique. If you can still fit in the earrings you wore at school as a girl, I think she's doing well there.
Great.
Now, Paul Claridge,
Pierce organ or something.
That's very good. I hadn't thought of that. Paul Claridge. Great. He's always getting these. Rules could be eased next month. So I've had, listen to this. I get news feeds flashing up all the time, right, from here in New York. In the course of this one show so far, which has been going for 7 days so far, it seems, I've had one thing that's saying lockdown and masks could last till August. And now I've just had another news flash which says rules could be easing soon. No wonder we're all going around the bend. Let's have one freaking message, please. Can we stop having 1,000 bloody messages from everyone who's ever stood next to anyone in a bus queue? This is nonsense.
Andy Lucas, porridge is low carb with dried fruit and plant milk.
I'm with Andrea on that one.
I do still have with regular milk, and the reason why I do that is because otherwise I wouldn't have much calcium, so I worry about that. So that's why I did decide that I was going to go along those lines. But even so porridge, but if it's a really strict diet, then it would be porridge with water.
Yeah, that's really tasty. I had that this week. God almighty, it's like wallpaper paste. Ed Grossman, ice cream. UK consumes more ice cream per capita than anywhere in the world. Wow.
I'm surprised America doesn't do that.
I'm really amazed about that. Martin Allen, Phil, you got a 30-inch waist. You lose any more weight, you get blown away like a kite.
Yeah, but I've got to keep that 38. 38?
I'd settle for that.
No, not. I've got to keep that 30-inch waist. As far
30 inch. It's the size of my thigh. Now, Paul Claridge, he of Upper Ladder in East Croydon, dip strawberries. This is why you get beaten up by Eastern European drug gangs, Paul, because of you. Dip strawberries in balsamic vinegar with a little black pepper. Sounds odd, you think, but it makes them taste sweeter and more yummy.
I mean,
what the hell?
How on earth did you discover that? Just out of
what? One actually, Paul, when you were just like in your kitchen one day, you think, "Oh no, I'm so hammered. I'm going to get some balsamic vinegar. I got to put it on my strawberries." How does that work?
Kimmy Lashmar, I made coconut and ginger ice cream last week for something to do. Wow. Andy Lucas is going to have the recipe. Sounds divine.
Oh, for God's sake. This is we're designed to be talking about mental health and well-being. What is this, the ice cream show? We're not even getting sponsored by an ice cream company.
No, nice. I think food is good for the soul.
It is good for the soul. It's absolutely great for the soul. Anybody who thinks it isn't, it's one of the great joys. This is the thing. I honestly believe that food is one of the great joys of life. We've covered music today with Esther and her chum. That was music's, if you're into it, it's lovely. It can be uplifting and mood lifting, etc., etc., etc. And food it's a wonderful thing. And that's one of the things, of course, we're missing. You don't go to a restaurant just for the food. Well, it would help if it was good food, but you go for the convivial atmosphere, hopefully, and just being social.
Just time to remind you that you are listening to The Daily Show here on Men's Radio Station with him, Russ Kane, and with me, Phil Dave. We're with you live until 2:00 this afternoon, and we've still got more to come, frankly. I mean, you may be forgiven for thinking, hang on, how much more can they cram into this program? But
unbelievable.
You'd be surprised. There is more to come. We absolutely, by the way, still want you to join in, comment along this show. It sounds so corny, but it's so true. And it's actually, I would suggest, more true than most other radio stations and most radio programs. This program is actually for you, and it is nothing without you. So please do comment along. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Men's Radio STN. On Twitter, we are at Men's Radio STN. And on YouTube, you can just do a search for Men's Radio Station. And make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube.
Yes, please do hit the subscribe button. It means you're thinking, why? It just means a lot to us. And if we can get those numbers up, who knows where we can go with it.
Oh,
Ed
Russ, you know what
Grossman.
you do as well? Russ,
What?
you know what you do as well? This is really old-fashioned, but it does still work. They can even call us.
Get out of town, baby.
You can call us on 0203 290 4411. If
I've
any
actually forgotten that.
This is-
0203 290 4411. You won't play that anymore.
This is correct. If you did
Have you got it on your board?
No. If you do want to
Unbelievable.
if you do want to call
0203 290 4411.
if you do want to call us, we would love to hear about any of the subjects. Maybe you actually are one of the individuals who has suffered with paternal postnatal depression, because I'd be really interested to speak. You know, we were speaking earlier on to our guest, to Mark Williams, who was telling us about his experience with paternal postnatal depression. And I'm so sort of ignorant when it comes to that subject. Hands up.
I didn't know there was such a I'll be honest with you. I didn't know there was such a thing. That's why I was so curious when I came across it, and I thought, let's get them on, because I'd be frank with you, I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. And it's important that we talk about it. So if you can help aid that conversation, 0203 290 4411. Andy Lucas says, oh yes, sorry. I do beg your pardon.
It's Andrea Lucas and
forgetting myself, aren't I?
Thank you, baked potato.
Andy Lucas says, I love this program because it has opened up for me, and I have discovered some lovely new virtual friends whom I hope will all meet up possibly at Nailcoat Hall. And you know what, Andy? That's exactly what we plan to do as soon as we can.
I've been thinking about this, and last night, because I was basically just cuddling Ebony, and then she got up at 5:30, and that was the end of it. And anyway, it doesn't matter. And Ebony, by the way, being the dog, in case you thought I was having a romantic night in. Yeah, right. And I thought, you know what we're going to do when this madness eventually is over? All this madness, we're going to have a men's radio station, women's radio station day. And we're going to pick a venue, and all you amazing, amazing people from all over the place, we're all going to get together. We're going to have name badges so we all know who you are. And we're just going to say hello to each other and actually meet face to face. And I think that I was thinking about that. I thought it would just be great, you know.
I'd love it.
It would be lovely.
There'd be no.
I got upset last night, and I'm going to be just serious for a second. So I'm just saying that because Phil always comes in, as I do, with some crass comment. Not as good as the ADHD.
Talking about anything about maybe, I don't know. Oh, do you need more omega-3 there? Well, actually, I've got ADHD. Oh, thanks for that. Okay, where was I going with that?
What a good sport. What a good sport he was. Eh? What a great sport he was.
By the way,
didn't take offense. He knew it was just a gag, and how are we to know that? We're not psychic.
If you have just tuned in, by the way, we're referring to a guest who was on earlier, Mark Williams, who was talking about the very serious subject of paternal postnatal depression. And I decided to make light of the fact that his chair was somewhat creaky. Yeah. And I creaky as in it was
squeaked. It squeaked.
It was just making a heck of a racket, a bit like me, really. But the point was, is that I said, you might need a bit more omega-3 there. Your joints are making a very strange noise. And he promptly comes out and says, well, actually, no, I'm moving a lot because I have ADHD. Oh, wow. Okay. I did not know that.
E Phantom says, I was just about to call you for a chat, but don't have anything to talk about. You must have something. You must have something like, I don't know, a new job. What are you doing? I don't know, something.
Can we have sandwiches made from Phil's Hollow when we get together?
I love Martin Allen's suggestion. Get Sen to do the barbecue. Yeah, because what Sen wants to do is to cook for God knows how many people. Ray Gelato would do the entertainment. That'd be lovely. Ray would do that.
We can get him to sing the theme tune live.
Yeah. I got a bit upset last night. Because it went into something that's been crossing my mind a lot, and I've tried not to talk about it. And it was this. I was watching another documentary, and one of my favorite bands is Rush. I got into them 40 years too late, but I absolutely love Rush. I got very upset at the beginning of last year when their drummer, probably the best pop drummer ever, called Neil Peart, died brain cancer at 60, he was 66, 67, and a magnificent human being, wonderful writer, very great thinker, orator, traveler. And the guitarist from Rush is a very interesting man called Alex Lifeson, who's now 66. He's about 67, 68. A brilliant guitarist, and wonderful lyricist, and just a terrific guy. And two things. He was being interviewed in his home studio now, this year, probably just a couple of weeks ago. He's Canadian there. He's up near Toronto. And two things occurred to me that really got me upset, because I've been a huge fan of them, and they've got a wonderful sense of humor. One, I got upset that he'd aged. I know that sounds silly, because I look at myself and I go, "Hi, Dad." So one was that, and two, you could see how his vivacity and how his energy had just been sucked out by this bloody pandemic. And he was still charming and urbane and articulate, but it wasn't the Alex Lifeson that I've come to know and admire so much. And he was even thinking, yeah, I'm going to just get rid of all my guitar collection. He's got loads, and just give them to various charities that he's supporting. And I thought, wow, you get to that time in life. That's kind of interesting. And the other thing that he said that really has been rattling around in my head, and I've been debating with myself whether I should even talk about it or not, but I always try to be, in broadcasting, as honest as I can be. And he said, because they said, "Are you ever going to go back on tour?" And he said, I've been touring for 40 years. I don't want to be in a hotel anymore. I don't want to. He says, but even if I did, I don't think we'd be looking at touring for another year. And that resonated me so hard, because this was an interview that was just done, right? It was done in January this year. And I thought, I think he's right. And it really got to me. I was watching it about 3 a.m, as I usually do. And I thought, wow, how much longer can we all really knuckle down like this?
Well, even if he is right about touring not being for another year,
yeah,
I stand by that. I don't believe for a second that everything will stay the same as it is now for a long period of time. Look, we've got a surprise on the phone that I'm hoping is going to cheer you up a little bit. Oh. And Chantel
Finn, the vet saying everything's okay.
I wish. Let's find out.
I'll be so happy.
I know. Well, I'm hoping.
Let's see what's going on.
This is as good as I've got a little clue here for you. Joining us now live on the line. Hi, Eve.
Hello there. How are you both?
How are you?
You've spelt it wrong.
What?
You spelt it wrong. It's Phantom. It's not actual Phantom.
Well, it's not my fault.
It's just the coolest name in the world, isn't it? Phantom.
So there we go. Fine.
And my middle name is Louise as well, so I'm actually Evil Phantom.
It's just genius.
Makes it
you couldn't make that up. That's just absolutely genius. What's your name? Evil Phantom.
Eve L. I think that's brilliant. Excellent work. Oh, dear. Well, Eve, you're hearing just now what Russ was saying about how it just was worried off the back of this documentary that potentially that life might not come back to some semblance of normality for at least another year. How do you feel about how we're muddling through with life? How are you coping with it?
Well, I was going to say, from my perspective, personally, I've just started a new job, and I've gone through the whole interview process via Zoom, haven't met a single soul, haven't been to the office, and I'm literally working from home indefinitely. And there's some talk as well about us never actually going back to the office. And there's one of my colleagues who actually started last April, who has never met a single soul at work. And I think the new normal is going to be lots more home working, masks as the norm, and all the rest of it. But for me personally, it's been really weird starting a new job and not meeting people.
Very odd. My son, one of the kids, has started a new job. I said, well, how's the office? He said, well, I've never been. I said, well, how are the other people? He said, I don't know. How is it? Because I thought about when you're working somewhere and then you've got to work from home, you can kind of detune from that. But going through the whole interview process, and it's a new job, and all the nerves and excitement and everything that goes with it, how is it working for a completely new company and a new business, and you never met anybody?
It's really hard. It's really hard. And I find myself kind of forcing myself into conversation with people, and doing the whole, hi, I'm new, can we have a chat? And what I've done is have a virtual coffee with someone on Zoom. And I've done that about 5 or 6 times with different people who I'm working with.
Nice.
Just so that we can have a chat separate to work about, oh, do you have a dog? Or do you like walking or running or whatever? And just
how have you met? But Eve, here's my question, and that's a brilliant idea. But one of the things that confuses me when you go to an office or a work, or in Phil Knight's case, a radio studio, which is a normal place, you're bumping into people, you're grabbing a coffee by the coffee machine, you're in the canteen, you're in the lift, you're chatting. But there's you in your pajamas or whatever. How are you meeting these people in the first place?
We have a Microsoft service that we use called Teams, which has a chat facility, which is similar to the messenger chat in Facebook. And you just talk to people on chat. So
how do you know who? I guess my question is, if I'm wandering around the studio or something, I go, oh, hello, I'm Russ, how are you? And you go, I'm Phil, blah, blah, blah. What are you? How are you meeting these people in the first place to initiate the conversation?
I'm having induction chats with the people who are crucial to my role, so all the heads of departments and that kind of thing. And they're saying, this is Angela, she does this is Jamie, he does this, blah, blah, blah. And afterwards, I'm just reaching out to people and connecting with them on LinkedIn as well. And just doing the whole, hello, I'm new, can we have a coffee? So
Eve,
it's really hard. Really hard.
Eve, I have to ask you, have you ever met Chantal Rickards before?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's a treat for you because, ladies and gentlemen, Chantal Rickards is here as well. Chantal, meet Eve. Eve, meet Chantal.
Hello, Eve. I love your name. What a wonderful name it is. Hi, guys.
Thank you.
Can you believe, Chantal, that her middle name is Louise, so it's Evil Phantom?
I know. I was listening. I thought that was
couldn't
brilliant.
make it up. Now, Eve, while you're there, Chantal, you're looking very, very chic, if I may say so. I'm sure Eve does too, but we don't know because we can't see her. But everyone's saying, what is your work, please, Eve? What is it that you do? I'm suggesting not stacking shelves in Lidl. Could be wrong.
I'm a marketing strategist.
And in English, that means what?
Just
I help businesses define their strategy of how they're going to approach customers.
Oh, Eve, we have a chat.
Yes.
Good Lord. Anyway, Eve, thank you so much for calling.
It's been a pleasure.
It's
been a pleasure.
Eve, promise us you'll call again and we'll have you on for longer next time.
I will try, but I will look forward to listening to Chantal now. Bye-bye, guys.
Excellent. Goodbye. Bye, Eve. Thank you very much indeed. Yes, you know what? I think Eve is spot on there when she says it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for this.
And if you're listening on Deluxe Radio, you're missing the dancing.
One day, the good people at Thames Television are probably going to have a right old go at us for using that. That was the theme tune to, funnily enough, We Love TV with Gloria Hunniford back in the day. Any odd way. But Chantal, how nice to see you, as always.
And you. Happy Friday to everybody. I'm sorry you're feeling sort of in that lockdown mood. Because I think, spring is just around the corner. My snowdrops are out. And I was talking to somebody on Zoom this week at 5:30 in the afternoon, and I'm based in London, and they were up in North Yorkshire, and there was still daylight outside. So spring is definitely on the way.
Oh, that's good.
Light is coming to the end of the day, and I think things are going to get a little bit more cheerful.
I would be just happy if you can sit on a terrace or a balcony or so. I mean, people have got gardens, it's fantastic. I don't. But it means so much more, doesn't it, when you can just kind of sit outside, have a cup of coffee or whatever. That as opposed to just sitting in the flat or the house.
Yeah, but as we know, exercise is very good for mental health. So everybody should be getting outside and going for a walk. So find a park bench.
there's no doubt in my mind, lockdown 1.0 was where I found that I coped with it best. When you remember we had the restriction of where we could only go out for a maximum hour a day.
Yeah, that was tough.
And that was the first lockdown, obviously. And I found that was my coping method. I found that I was so sad at the end of that hour. I used to make the most of the full hour, and I stuck to it. I didn't say, oh, I'll give myself another 5 minutes. I made sure I stuck by the hour. And I remember when I came back, at the time I was living with my sister and brother-in-law, because we were so worried about this particular newfound thing called COVID-19 that I didn't want to risk staying in the family home and giving anything to my parents, But anyway, the point is that when I was at the end of the walk, end of the hour, I used to think to myself, oh, I've got to wait another 23 hours for this now. So that was quite tough. But actually, so the being out and about, the weather made a massive difference. Being stuck indoors this time was just shocking. It's so horrid. But anyway.
Well, we're halfway through February, so March is just around the corner.
Correct. It certainly is. And I tell you what is just around the corner as well is hopefully some recommendations of what we should be watching.
That was silky smooth.
You know what? It feels like I work in radio.
Well, actually, I thought we ought to start with mental health this week because, that is what the channel is dedicated to improving one's mental health. So the first thing to do is to watch a BBC programme called The Truth About Improving Mental Health, because actually there are some incredibly useful and practical pieces of advice, starting with what you eat, which has an absolute effect on how your mental health is. And you can boost your mental wellness through food. This is not a joke. This absolutely has to be watched. Yeah. You can actually, by monitoring your own heart rate, you can actually bring it down and make yourself less anxious. And also that if you listen to the radio or podcasts while you're exercising, so that's an even better reason to carry on listening to MRS, that actually improves your mental health as well. So
is that right?
Brand new program. It's Professor Tanya Byron, who has done a lot on health over the years. She's a very sensible woman. She's interviewed lots of people, including a woman called Alex Scott, who's an ex-England footballer who has suffered from depression. And so they put people on placebo drugs and probiotics and see how mental health is increased through this girl, Alex Scott. And actually, it's remarkable what happens. So watch that. It's on the BBC iPlayer at the moment. And definitely worth watching for all of those people who are still suffering a little bit from, just feeling a bit pissed off, frankly.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. The other thing to say, just as a quick addendum to what you guys were talking about earlier on, in America, I think that you guys know that I spent a lot of time in America and came back just over a year ago. They sell diet pills for back fat. Now, don't ask me how this works because it sounds completely ridiculous to me that you can go and get a pill over the counter that will somehow melt your back fat. Why it doesn't quite melt any other part of your body, I'm not entirely sure. But there is such a thing.
My back's all right. It's my front. My back's fine.
I think this is
program.
Back fat.
Back fat.
Who the hell has back fat? I don't even know what it is.
Did they suggest you take it and then you go and lie down for about 24 hours afterwards just to make sure it goes to the right location?
It sounds completely bonkers to me. But if you want a good diet recommendation, and I know that you were talking about melon and what you should put on it earlier on. Another thing that, in fact, it's a Mexican recipe, but in California, everybody eats it. It's lots of lovely fruit, but generally watermelon and honeydew melon. And you put on it a Mexican spice called tajin, which is a chili spice, and it really brings out the flavor of the melon. And it's also incredibly low calorie. So for anybody who wants to keep something in the fridge that's a sort of something that you can pick at instantly, but add a little bit of tajin onto it, this chili.
And do you spell that? How do you spell tajin?
Tajin. Tajin. Yeah. It was one of Nigella's big things a couple of years ago. She told everybody it was one of her secret things in her cupboard and told people to go out and get tajin. But it is absolutely delicious.
Look,
what's it taste? What does the tajin taste like?
Doesn't even know how to say microwave properly. So as far as I'm concerned,
It's chili, lime, and salt, basically.
Oh, hello. Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
yeah.
really
Now you got my attention. Now we've got some commissioning suggestions for you,
Oh,
considering that you've produced some of the greatest shows. Right?
Okay,
And this is from Ramsey. More TV commissioning suggestions for Chantal Rickard. Number 1. See what you started. Number 1, celebrity influencers. Give 10 celebrities a £30,000 budget and an Instagram account and 30 days to develop content and an internet presence. The celeb with the most followers wins the £300,000 prize. 2, and then the second one. This is good.
Interesting.
You're going to like this one, Chantal.
Okay.
Wife swap in lockdown. Genius. 2 couples. Ramsey, you are on fire, fella. 2 couples swap partners for 6 weeks in lockdown. Cameras record the dynamics as they endure their new partners within the confines of their home.
I could save a lot of marriages.
I'm not doing number 3.
I'm
not doing number 3, Ramsey.
Yeah, maybe not suggestion number 3. Let's go to suggestion.
Read that. I'm not doing it.
Suggestion number 4. I can do that. 10 members of the public undertake jobs that they say they can do better than the professionals. I love that, Ramsey. For example, truck driver Kevin from Lambeth gets to manage Millwall FC for a week. Brilliant. Ramsey, you are a creative factory. I tell you what that you remind me of. You're a little bit like the idea behind the birth of Television Centre. Because when they created Television Centre, they said they wanted it to be a television factory, a dream factory of where all of this great creativity came from. And I feel like a walking rendition of that.
Although I think last week he kind of set the bar very, very high. And Ed Grossman's reminded of this with Celebrity Naked Attraction.
Yes, I have to stress there are some parts of your creativity that leaves to be desired, but at the same,
and I'm sure I've told you I've seen Bernard Manning in his underpants, and it's burned onto my retina. So I'm not in favour of that one.
Poor soul.
And on that happy note, can I make a suggestion that Chantal, I don't know whether or not you have caught this, and if you haven't, I'd be very interested for your feedback because I'm still not quite sure I get it after the first couple of episodes, but the person who recommended it to me has told me to stick with it, so I'm going to try again this weekend. It's on Disney Plus, and the program is called WandaVision, and it's Wanda
WandaVision,
yeah, Wanda as in the character Wanda, the Marvel character comment, I think, Wanda. And then you've got, because Vision, I beg your pardon. So Vision is the Marvel character. And then Wanda is his partner, his wife in this. And the way it starts, I don't know how it carries on, but the way it starts is a couple, like a 1950s I Love Lucy recreation is the only way I can describe it. The entire thing is in black and white. And what you see is Vision, who is this sci-fi robotic character who tries wherever he can when he's in the real world to disguise himself as human, but obviously because he's part alien, struggles in the real world, so to speak, struggles here on Earth. And Wanda is a witch of description. She's got magical powers, and it's about the two of them struggling to cope with life on Earth, but how they sort of try and play this perfect 1950s couple.
Is it a documentary?
It sounds very confusing to me.
Not documentary at all, but it is mightily confusing, and this is it. But I've been told that I've not given it enough time and that it is incredible. I think it's very cleverly done. Yeah. Make no mistake, but I'm not sure I get it because it seems to be the love child of I Love Lucy meets maybe Bewitched. I think there's an element of Bewitched in it as well. Versus
My Favorite Martian. You won't remember that. Do you remember that show?
But it's kind of is that, but that's on Disney Plus. It's called WandaVision, and Wanda is in WONDER and then Vision. So I thought it
was WANDA, Wanda, like her name.
I think it is WANDA.
Quite right. WANDA, beg your pardon. WANDA, WandaVision.
There's a lot of talk about it. There's a big push behind it. I haven't seen it. It sounds a bit like Fusion Confusion to me. And the minute that you say which is sci-fi, then I'm afraid I sort of tune out.
I get that, and I think I would as well, but there is something about it which is strangely intriguing. And what I quite like as well is the episodes are only half an hour. They're not an hour like we've become used to with watching all of these streaming programs, so they're all an hour long. This is half an hour. So it's
right. As we have our television expert on, here's a question for you again. Paul Andrews, Chantal, have you seen the new Adam Curtis documentaries on BBC iPlayer? 5 films entitled Can't Get You Out of My Head. Truly fascinating stuff, but also like his work, watching them is a bit like being on LSD.
I wouldn't.
Simple answer is no, I haven't seen it, but it sounds fascinating, and it's certainly I shall make a date with it over the weekend. So yeah, I'm interested to hear about it, and it's not something that I've managed to catch up with in the last.
Is he? Forgive my ignorance. Is he very well known, Adam Curtis? Am I missing a name of somebody I should know?
Pretty well known. Pretty well known.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not something that leapt out at me. I mean, I've obviously been, going through the digital version of the Radio Times, trying to find things that I mustn't miss. But actually, that hasn't leapt out at me. But I will definitely find it.
Okie dokie.
But I did find something, a documentary actually that was 2 years old, that I think is worth watching, even if you don't know who the central character is. And it comes under the True Stories strand at the BBC. And it's about a Swedish pop star, if you like, called Avicii. Now, some people will know him.
Yes.
He is, in fact, incredibly famous and well-known internationally. But if you're not into electronic dance music, he might have passed you by, and not everybody is into EDM. But he has an extraordinary story. And I think because MRS is the channel that it is, and it is talking about mental wellness, it's very, very interesting to see how this young man how he gets broken by his profession. And it's a fascinating but hard watch. But it's something that we should all watch, because we need to be looking out for other people who are not doing as well as we're doing. And this film absolutely is filmed over 4 years, the last 4 years of his life. It absolutely shows you about what was going on, the pressures he was under,
I saw it
and how other people could have made it better.
Shocking.
Yeah. It's really worth watching.
He was charming. I use the past tense as I have to. He was enormously talented. He loved what he did, and he lived for his work. And they rinsed him.
They
rinsed him. And you watch this kid, and I'm not being derogatory when I say that, because he starts off, he's really young. And please correct me if you think I'm getting up. And you just watch this kid aging and getting tireder and tireder, and you think, please give the boy a bloody break.
And you can see him just getting more and more stressed.
Oh, it was horrible, because he'd taken something that he loved doing and that he was damn good at. And the shows he were doing, tens of thousands, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 people coming to see these shows. These are huge shows. This isn't some Herbert in a bar in Hoxton doing it. These are huge shows.
He was a huge star.
And it just, as you say, it broke. I remember this video. Thank you for bringing it up. I remember this clearly. Where did you find it, Chantal?
It's on the BBC iPlayer, but it is from 2 years ago. It was filmed over a 4-year period. It was actually completed before he sadly died as a result of his mental unwellness. But it's absolutely worth watching, because it just shows how we've got to look out for each other.
And also, it's interesting. I've got to ask you something, Chantal, because, you were in Hollywood for years. You know the great and the good. And so many people say you could look at Amy Winehouse, you could look at Whitney Houston, you could look at Michael Jackson. And it's like, where were the people to say, stop?
Yeah.
Just stop. Let's take time out. A year, 2 years, whatever it takes. Where were the family, the advisors, the management? And in every case, they're nowhere. It's extraordinary.
Is it too much to suggest that some of them may have been a little too busy counting the pennies?
Well,
Oh,
I
really?
think if you watch the Avicii documentary, you might come to the same conclusion. Obviously, one takes out of that documentary what one's own appreciation of what the situation was, but it feels as though there was exploitation going on. And I think what Russ is trying to say is that that's not uncommon. And I think you're absolutely right.
They're just milking that cash cow, and then they think, well, sod it. Okay, we've done well. Let's find another cash cow. Because you will find somebody else. They may not be another Whitney Houston, but you'll find an Adele. They're out there if you look hard enough. Lots of thanks coming into you, Chantal. I always say this because I don't want you to think you're talking into the void. Ed Grossman, Chantal, I have almost finished Call My Agent. It's so good, I can't believe it.
Oh, brilliant. Ed, I'm delighted. Well done.
And Paul Claridge, I've just finished season 1 of This Is Us. Thank you for the recommendation. It's truly wonderful. And if anyone likes that show, the actor who plays the dad is in a brilliant film called The Art of Driving in the Rain.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that would be Tiffany Adele, probably. Or Smith. That would be it. Dave Sleet, this is good. Dave Sleet, who's been very kind to Phil and I here on Men's Radio Station and to Men's Radio as well. Dave Sleet, greed and glory don't allow safety of the mind.
Good. Wise words as ever coming from Dave.
Absolutely. Okay. Wise words.
Okay, have you been watching anything?
Me? I no. Absolutely.
Nothing. Well, I've got some nice things for you to watch over the weekend if you want.
Oh, good. Thank you. Yeah. We'd love them.
Well, the first thing I'll say then is Tom Hanks, because he can do no wrong. And he's just come out with a brand new movie called News of the World, which is not News of the World as we know it, fortunately, which is no longer. It's a brand new film on Netflix. It's quite slow. Well, I would say it's a slower pace. It is a Western based in 1870. He is an ex-Confederate Army captain who has turned his life around and now goes around from town to town to town in the southern states, reading the newspapers to the local population once a week. Which is why it's
reading the
newspapers aloud, because obviously a lot of people couldn't read in those days, but they all wanted news. So it was a thing that in the town hall, somebody would turn up once a week to read out the news. And it's, a rather nice idea. But he sort of falls across, rather like George Clooney has done very recently with his latest movie. He ends up looking after a young girl of about 9 or 10, which is exactly the same sort of story as the George Clooney movie that he came out with recently. Anyway, he ends up looking after this young white girl who had been captured by a First Nations battle, and she's been brought up as
First Nations. I've got to interrupt. What is this new phrase for? I'm not being sarcastic. I'm serious.
Right.
First Nations. Do you mean
Indigenous American? I'm trying to be politically correct.
I get that, but I've never heard the phrase used before. Okay, First Nations. Right.
Yeah, First Nations or Indigenous American. But anyway, so she has been brought up with a First Nations group. Tribe, if you like, and she doesn't fit in anywhere, quite simply. So he has to try and get her back to people who had been her family. So it's a bit of it's a lovely, gentle drama. It tells you quite a lot about what was going on at the time, about how the First Nations were badly treated, people of other colours were badly treated generally. In a way, it's a bit trying to sort of right the wrongs of the past, which you can't really do through drama because the wrongs of the past were wrong, quite simply. But it's not a bad movie, and anything with Tom Hanks in is absolutely worth watching.
Well,
so that's on Netflix.
By the wonders of modern technology, shall we have a trailer?
Oh, go for it.
Oh, blimey, O'Reilly.
Taking its toll.
These are difficult times. Bad times.
Captain!
I shoot, you go.
Get down!
Where'd you serve, Captain? 3rd Texas Infantry. What's your business up here? I read the news from town to town. I was headed down south. who found this child. Friend. Who were kidnapped when they attacked your family 6 years prior to your heaven.
Blimey, that does sound intriguing.
I'm fascinated, Chantal, that people went and read the newspaper. Was that because, and I'm not being, was it because the population couldn't read, or they never actually physically had a newspaper?
For sure, a lot of people couldn't read and still can't. I mean, the level of education is still quite poor in many areas, particularly in the southern states in America. You know, education is it's a tricky topic out there. Children go to school later, and they probably generally don't learn as much during their schooling period. So illiteracy is still high. Sadly,
it's an extraordinary thing. When I lived in America, there was some people whose kid had just gone off to university. It was like, you think this was the greatest thing. I said, oh, it's so hard. And they showed me, I had to be very polite as I was a guest in their home. And they showed me the work that the daughter was doing at uni. I thought, this is like O-level. Honestly, in not being rude, this was somewhere between O-level, GCSE as we call it now, and A-level. I thought, this isn't university. It's not university stuff like we recommend it. I have a serious question for you, Chantal. I know you've got other recommendations, but I've been busting ever since this week to ask you this thing. And it's this. On YouTube, they do lots of compilations of trailers of films coming up, which, as you know, and they put them all together. So it could be best action films, best sci-fi films, best horror film. And I watch these things out of curiosity to see what it is. Obviously, the pandemic, because you can see that when the release dates were meant to be.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? Because Chantal, it's your industry. There must be the most enormous backlog. We're just looking from the number of trailers that I've sat through this week. Must be 30 trailers of big movies, big blockbusters. What are they going to do? What is their strategy?
Don't forget that some places in the world aren't in lockdown, and so movie theatres are open, cinemas are open. Okay. So things are being released around the world. A lot more has gone straight to Netflix and the streaming, Amazon and the streaming services. And indeed, Disney have brought films out that have gone straight onto their streaming service without going into, a major movie theatre. Other things are being held back, like James Bond. So it's a bit curate's eggish at the moment. Everybody's sort of trying to keep up. And the blockbusters, the major blockbusters, will be held back. But those are few and far between now. Most things are being released either to streaming or they're being released in cinemas in other territories.
If you were in charge, because some of these films are huge. I'm not talking about some little piddly films. I mean, these are massive films with big stars. Yeah. If you were in charge of all of this with your experience, would you say, right, we're going to release it? I'm just picking this as an example. We're going to release James Bond on this day, and you're going to pay 20 quid, 25 quid. And you'd think, well, if I was going to the cinema, I'd end up paying that, so I might as well. Would you do that, or would you keep holding it back?
Well, I think that's really interesting. I would prefer to see James Bond in the cinema because it's made the cinema. That's not to say that my, biggish telly here isn't great, and it is great, but I would still rather have the, as they call it, the theatrical experience, the theatrical release, i.e. to see it in a cinema.
Can I just quickly throw in a suggestion that's on Netflix? If you haven't seen it, the film I can't remember if we discussed this before. I never remember. I'm so sorry. It's a film called The Dig. And if you've not...
It's on my list here.
On the excellent way. Well, in that case, just very quickly, I know that it sort of tells the story of Edith Pretty, who was the owner of a mansion that had quite a few acres of land surrounding the Sutton Hoo excavation, where a chap by the name of Basil Brown, she employs, who is an archaeologist who goes digging these rather unusual looking mounds that she's got in one of her fields. Turns out to be a phenomenal discovery just pre-World War II. For heaven's sakes, watch it. It's on Netflix. It's called The Dig. The cast, oh my God, Carey Mulligan, Ralph Fiennes, Lily James. Seriously, it's brilliant. Now,
it's very good. Definitely worth watching. It's absolutely one of my picks, and it's on the list for this week, so do watch it. The Dig on Netflix.
Now, you mentioned earlier on the sauce, the Mexican sauce, that could run the risk of sort of being something that would assist melon, shall we say. I thought no better way to end today than something that Sen Monroe has shared, which means that it could be worse. And it's on screen now. There we go. This is bunny sauce, which apparently will encourage you to have a movement in bed. Anyway, that happy note. Chantal, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Chantal. We always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wise words.
Happy watching. See you next week.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we've got to say thank you to all of our guests. Of course, we say thank you to Esther Ray, Sarah Fisher, also to Mark Williams and Parvinder Shagil. That's it. That's all we've got time for today. We're back on Monday, okay? So have a good weekend, one and all. We'll see you midday on Monday here on Men's Radio. Bye, everyone.
Bye.